All right, I'm going to do a review, more or less overall, or overview review, perhaps I should say. But on the, well, I was going to say the found footage series, not quite, starts out that way, of REC, or REC. It ran for 4 films, and there was, it's a Spanish series, and but there was an American take on it, called Quarantine, and it went in its own direction with the sequel, and I think that was it. That's all they did. But the first 2 films are very similar, and they follow the same look and tact. But of course, the American version is in Los Angeles. The Spanish version takes place in Barcelona. So the first films of each are very, very similar, even in the setting and what the building looks like, more or less, and all of that. But the Spanish version goes into more detail, and they can, in their sequel, is a direct sequel to it. So is the Quarantine one, but it goes off on this other tangent and all that sort of stuff. Whereas the next one is a pretty good follow-up to the first one. After that, well, things take a turn, and so the first one is the best. It's pretty good, and basically, you've got everything that qualifies for what I say the rules that found footage should have. Does it make sense that the camera is running all the time? Yes. I suppose you could kind of argue it to some extent, but even towards the end, they have it set up and plotted to where, and they need it. It gets dark, and you need the night vision to be able to see, and so on. So basically, you have a news reporter, and she's a local television reporter. Her and her cameraman are going to do a story on the local fire department. So she goes to the fire station, and there they are, and she gets a tour of the place. She hangs out with the guys. She's assigned to 2 of them in particular. And suddenly the alarm goes off, and it's their turn to get in the truck and go see what the problem is. So she and her cameraman join them in the truck, and they head over there, and they go to this apartment building where there's been some incident. This woman's very sick, and the fire department guys are going to go see what the problem is. There's already a police officer on the scene, so they go in there, and all hell breaks loose. This is the woman, and what looks to be a zombie outbreak is taking place here. So that's pretty much what you got with the plot. They don't understand what they're encountering. They think this is a woman who's perhaps suffering some sort of dementia or what have you. But she attacks them, and seems to be a lot stronger than she should be, and all this sort of stuff. And ultimately gun her down and what have you. And of course, the spreading begins, and one of the firemen, or officers rather, sorry, is injured, and they're trying to get him help, and that's when the whole building gets surrounded by the authorities and sealed off, and they're told that you can't leave because they're putting the whole place in quarantine, because they're aware that there's some sort of viral outbreak. And of course, they've already seen the evidence of this, of what it does to people. And then there's clues and elements that come through with the occupants of the apartment building, and the officers and the firemen trapped in there, along with the news crew, little by little, of what exactly happened and how did the infection occur. And then it goes deeper and deeper. There's a penthouse they get to, and that's when it reveals the whole thing. And there's the whole penthouse apartment, and this is after one death and attack after another. They're dealing with the authorities. Please let us out. No, we can't. And all of that. One of the scientists comes in. They say they need a sample, but they don't quite understand what they're talking about and all this stuff. But when you get to the penthouse, The whole floor of the penthouse apartment has been converted into what appears to be this laboratory. So there's test tubes everywhere, and but then there's all these clippings all up and down the wall, all kind of religious artifacts, paintings, and rosaries, and so on. And what you garner from that is that there was this girl who appears to have been possessed by the devil, and this priest was trying to figure out how to counter what the possession is. So the premise here is that the zombie outbreak is a supernatural event caused by demonic possession, and that the possession takes place through some sort of viral infection. And ultimately, they needed the patient zero. So this girl is the origin of the story. Where is she? Well, we don't see her until the very end, and she's become this monster. She's emaciated and all this sort of stuff. Your characters, they seem like, oh, will they make it out? And there's one running battle after another, and it all goes to hell. And finally, at the end, only the news girl is left, and she's crawling around trying to escape the demon-possessed girl, or now, I don't know, old woman. I don't know, she's very tall, looks, very monstrous. But you only see it through the night vision, and then ultimately drags the newswoman away into the dark, and the movie ends. So the next film picks up right where it left off, and once again you see that. So a SWAT team shows up to see what's going on, and now it's kind of the same thing occurs here as it unfolds. And then they're stuck and trying to get out. And accompanying them is their top scientist, but he's a priest. So this is more of a Vatican operation than the government, but they're working in collusion, I guess, and trying to investigate this. And the Vatican has a better idea of what this is about and all that. So once again, battles and some of the people that you saw previously in the movie, I don't think they were actually there. They just had some people dressed up to look like them. They're all zombies now, And so the SWAT team has the same problem, but of course they're not going to fare any better trying to get out. But only the priest can give the word for them to be released. And his mission is to find the origin sample. And that's what he's trying to do. And he's aware of the priest that was living in that penthouse doing the work, trying to find an antidote to this infection. And so it's very well done. There's a couple of years in between the two films, but this one really does pick up where the last one left off. And they go forward in there trying to figure out what to do, and you get more of the backstory as to what this is about. So it's done fairly well. And then the newswoman turns out, oh, she's still alive, and she's like, yeah, I need to get out of here. This is horrible and all this stuff. And as they go, of course, you find out she's possessed by the main host demon, and turns on the priest and taunts him and whatnot, ultimately kills him, and then is able to mimic his voice and tell the authorities to let her out. And so there you go. It leaves it like that. So then you think, oh no, this apocalyptic virus now in the main host of this newswoman is going to escape and infect the world, and the apocalypse begins. Well, that's not what they decided to do for whatever reason. The third movie really derails everything. First of all, it seemingly starts out like it's going to be a found footage thing. It's this wedding taking place, and there's this wedding video. So someone is filming the wedding and getting all this footage for them to commemorate this, occasion. And so it, you know, it makes sense to some extent that that's what's happening. But it's just like, it's completely removed from the apartment building that was in the previous two movies. And so it's just a suggestion that there's other outbreaks, I guess. For the most part, it takes a little too long with it, even if it would have been a full-on found footage. It isn't. It starts out that way, and for a good long while, you're watching this wedding video. You see the wedding, and then the party afterwards, the whole thing, you know. And every now and then you get a glimpse of some guy. Well, he's got a little bandage on his hand. So you already know, oh, he's the problem. And then after a while, he seems to be acting a little weird. Eventually, during the party, and a couple of times, some people noticed him puking in the bushes, and they thought, oh boy, he's had one too many. And then later on, he falls off a balcony and crashes into one of the tables, and everybody's horrified, you know. And then, of course, he attacks the women that come to see if he's okay and everything. And so then it's on. And then a bunch of zombies come out of nowhere, and at some point, they jump out of the found footage iteration of the movie, and now it's just a regular movie. And they get cute and do some silly comical things here and there, and it goes way over the top, and I don't know what they were thinking. And ultimately the main thing revolves around the couple trying to get back together. They get separated in the chaos, and slowly but surely they reunite, but all hell breaks loose. And it was just trying to be a totally different movie. And I think had they done this completely separate from the REC narrative and storyline, and they wanted to approach it with this over-the-top humor and stuff like that, maybe they could have had something, and maybe it would have worked out okay. But as a third film, and a follow-up to the first two, it just doesn't work, and it derails the whole thing. And ultimately, you probably should have just left the first two alone and just leave it up that, oh no, it's a horror movie, so the monster one is going to get out and take over the world and all that. And could have done that. But this was just a bad idea. It's got a lot of great production quality about it and everything, but this just was not the thing to do. So they get to a fourth film, and the fourth film now gets back to where the second one left off. But they decide not to do found footage yet again. There's some elements of it where you say, look, you could have done, and it could have been completely done with found footage. You could have said that they're documenting what's going on. This information could be used to help the cause into trying to defeat this demonic virus. That being said, the supernatural elements are all but taken away. Whereas even the third movie, there's a moment where a priest, in fact, the entirety of the zombies, well, if you start quoting scripture and saying the Lord's Prayer and stuff, this sort of paralyzes the zombies. And eventually this guy starts broadcasting it over the loudspeakers at the venue where the wedding is taking place. And so it's in keeping with that the whole thing is involved in, apocalyptic biblical stuff as the origin of the zombie outbreak. Whereas this one, it kind of is there at the end, with the reveal of it, but mostly it's delving around. There's this parasite that has taken over the newswoman, and they did show in the at the end of the second film how she got infected. There was an extra few minutes in the final scene of her being dragged away. The original patient Zero puked a maggot into her mouth. And that's the main possession element. There's this thing that crawls into her insides and takes over. So this picks up, well, what became of her, because she was able to get herself out. So now she's been, rescued. Members of the SWAT team are there with her, and they wake up. They're on this boat way out at sea in the middle of nowhere because of the seriousness of it, and until they have come up with an antidote, they cannot return to the mainland and all this sort of stuff. So that's the situation. Of course, it's a crappy boat that isn't running very well, so that creates problems. But they got their military team on there with the crew running the boat, and that's the deal. And as it goes, slowly but surely, there's also test monkeys they have on there that have been infected, and then they become a problem, and so on. But it's all on the scientific approach to it, and so they're trying to get this antidote. And of course everything falls apart, but there's a mystery as to one of the monkeys is released to start spreading the infection, who let the monkey go, and all this stuff. And eventually, at first, they test her thinking she's the new patient zero, but she tests as negative. She doesn't have the virus. And they're like, oh, well, we were wrong about that. And but they said, man, damn, how can that be? Well, then they begins. Eventually, they get the tape as they're going through it, and they see the maggot being puked into her, and so they realize, oh my God, it's able to disguise itself. So they decide they're going to need to perform this surgery, cut her open, and get the maggot. And of course, she doesn't want to do this. There's this big fight. One of the main SWAT team guy opposes them, but ultimately says, well, maybe it's what has to happen. Big fight and all this stuff. And but eventually, we find the twist is, no, she doesn't have the maggot in her anymore. It jumped to someone else. But who? Well, it jumped to the SWAT guy. Spoiler, that's the big reveal. He's the actual demon. He's been pretending all this time, hiding amongst them, so on and so forth. And so there's a big battle there, and ultimately there's the news girl and this fat radio control guy from the bridge crew are able to escape. And there they go. The boat is set to self-destruct. It blows up, and they get back. But the demon maggot is still crawling around in the ocean. Now, since it was already established that basically reading scripture but for some reason these guys, who apparently had nothing to do with the church, are completely ignorant of this for whatever reason, despite the fact that the other people involved were Vatican people. There's none of that here. Why does that happen? How does it happen? They're just that incompetent, I guess. It doesn't really resolve it very well, and plus they abandoned the found footage element, so that doesn't work either. It just doesn't come across very well. And the guy at the end who ends up helping the girl escape, he's a bit of a coward, and then suddenly he steps up to it and is a badass, and that kind of thing. That doesn't really work either. She's being chased by the monkeys, but somehow she's able to outrun them. I don't think so. And she says, oh, look, a ladder. She'll climb the ladder. Oh, yeah, the monkeys will get up that. They show the monkeys, and they're going up it super fast, and she's slowly climbing. There's no way she could have escaped those. So there's a lot of stupid there. And they kind of end it on like it's a funny note and whatnot. But it just doesn't work. So you had two movies. The first one's better than the second one. The second one's not bad. It's a pretty good follow-up to it. And that's pretty much where you probably should stop. The other two are just not worth the trouble. So there you go. Part found footage and part, I don't know, trying to be a horror franchise, but not quite knowing what to do. Even though the idea of some final... perhaps a third film. The fourth film should have been the third one. Make it found footage. You can keep it. They're stuck in this boat and everything goes to hell. And you could have done it like that. And maybe that would have worked out. And you could have kept your Vatican elements as a part of that, rather than just sort of tack that on to the wedding third movie, you know. But anyway, you get two fairly good found footage films out of it at the beginning, so there is that. But as far as the rest of it, might as well. I mean, just out of curiosity, you know, you can watch it like I did. But other than that, you can stop it too. That's the wrong opening. I just can't win. I never can. All right, so I'm here. Good Lord. I didn't know that was going to go that long. Well, I'll do the ending song for the end of the show, but yeah. Anyway, here we are. Nodak says hit the like button. Gee, I hope you have. Alexander says hi. Hi, Alexandria. Scott Sarah says, hey, everybody. Says Doug. That means me. Nodak. Everybody's saying hi, and it's all great. Nodak says, why hasn't there been a virus movie where the virus makes it so nobody gets sick or dies? The problem is everyone lives forever, and the ramifications of that. So, I wonder if the price of it is sterilization, so you don't reproduce anymore, because otherwise you're going to run out of room. Something of that nature. Alexander says, gross. Well, it is a concept that, yeah, it would be different. And I suppose the tagline, the good news is nobody dies. The bad news is nobody dies. And there you go. That's the movie. The great virus. Jason loves Doctor Who and says, ew. Joe Lamont Sama, hey, hello. I just came in and thought you were in the midst of reviewing Supergirl. I haven't seen it yet, and I might not. No doubt about it. I more than likely won't get a chance until possibly Tuesday. And if that doesn't happen, screw it. You know, I think it's going to be a colossal failure, and that's that. But if I get the chance, yeah, I'll see it. The earliest would be Tuesday. Alexandria says hi to Joe Lamont. Everybody's saying hi. And yeah, we're back to the intro song. So what to do for this show? Well, I've got some news items. Supergirl is one of them a little bit. Then there's the Odyssey. And the rest is a bunch of horror movie news. hence the, horror intro type thing and all that. And then some more sadness about poor Doctor Who. There's a couple of sort of interesting articles on it, and I'll talk about those. But anyway, I thought I would try to do a review of a film here. I don't know if it'll be the main one, and I'll have to do it again for just a basic video. But anyway, I've been going through these William Shatner movies. It started out with the horror at 37,000 feet, which I had a lot of fun watching that movie. Basically, this was a 70s TV movie in the era of the disaster movies that were popular at the time, and primarily airplane disasters. But the clever people behind this movie decided to combine, I guess, sort of demonic possession, where the plane is possessed by an evil force. And that's the cause of the disaster. And oh no, the passengers and crew have got to survive this somehow. And there you go. So that was one. Then I did Kingdom of the Spiders, and then Devil's Reign. Devil's Reign, actually, in my opinion, is the weakest of the three. So, but primarily, I think those three are the main horror movies. There is a fourth film that this is one of those things of the debates that if your film is scary and frightening, but doesn't have any supernatural element to it, is it a horror movie? I would say it is. I mean, I think a lot of people consider Psycho a horror movie, even though there's no supernatural elements there. So the other option was thriller. That is a thriller, and sometimes maybe horror thriller would be the approach to it. I mean, if you're stuck and someone's trying to kill you, you're going to be scared. You're trying to survive and all this stuff, or someone's stalking you or whatever. You're alone at home and there's somebody out there trying to get in, and they cut the lines, and you somehow your phone doesn't work and all that. Those scenarios, that kind of thing. Or if you're out camping and a bear's coming for you and you got to survive, that's scary. I mean, you basically are being chased by a monster, but it can actually happen, that sort of thing. So, and just being the target of a serial killer would be a horror movie scenario, So, so I don't know. It's one of the debates, but this one is a film Shatner starred in called Impulse. And basically the plot is he's this con artist who swindles lonely women out of their money. And I'd read the synopsis of it that he's a serial killer, and that's what I don't think so, not quite, because the initial kill that he does, he seems quite stunned that it happened at all, and so I'm not sure what they did. They do a sort of backstory intro to the movie. That's shot in black and white, and it's when the character that Shatner's playing, it was a young boy living with his mother, and his mother is a bit of a slut, and she's with her boyfriend, and they're making out in the living room, and young Shatner, I forget the name, but I can't remember not Paul, that's from the airplane movie. He didn't have a catchy name like Rack Hansen in this one. I've already forgotten the name. But anyway, he comes out, walks in on them, getting ready to get busy on the sofa. And then the guy's kind of irritated at this. And then I don't even recall exactly what started it, but he starts attacking the boy's mother. And then she's like, oh my God, help. So the kid grabs a sword. Now the guy, I think it was a Japanese samurai sword, because the guy had been in the service and had fought in in World War II, fought the Japanese. And over the radio, they were hearing that the surrender has happened. So he's home from the front, so the war is over and all that. So he's celebrating with this floozy that he's picked up. And but he had that sword with him. So the kid picks up the sword and threatens the man with it. And the man is like, starts laughing at him, like, yeah, what are you going to do, you little snot? And then the kid runs him through with the sword. And that's that. We don't know. Matt Stone, you're right. Thanks, Nodak. Yes, Matt Stone is the name. So little Matt kills mommy's boyfriend of the hour. And we don't know what became of that. He's a child. So were the authorities called or anything? Or did mommy help cover this up and that sort of thing? I don't know. We jump ahead. Matt's an adult watching a belly dancer at some nightclub. And he's this, player. He's this happening guy. He hooks up with these broads and stuff like that. At the same time, he's already swindling some lady who is somewhat older, didn't, not much, would, but he's swindling her. And she's on to him. She catches him with another woman and all this sort of stuff. And he's like, I know you, you don't understand. We're just good friends. That's all it is. No, nothing's going on. She doesn't fall for it. They get in a big argument and they start fighting. And of course, I did notice that he drives her out in the middle of nowhere. And they start fighting and arguing. And then he loses his cool and strangles her. And but he's stunned that it happened. He finally, when he releases her, she goes off to the side of the car, and he's sitting there like, whew, boy, you got some fire in you, baby. Jeez. And he about to light a cigarette, and then he starts, hey, baby. And then he's like, oh shit, she's dead. So he's like stunned that this happened. Now, I suppose he could go like, oh no, not again. It's like, why does this keep happening? Oh. And that's one of the telltale signatures of, well, you got to understand he was traumatized as a child when he killed a man, albeit a man that was attacking his mother. So, hey, you can understand what he's doing, but also the setup that his mother was a bit of a slut. So his vision of women is not positive and that sort of thing. So I guess, that's the setup for him. But in the midst of the killing of the man, of his mama's boyfriend, when he gets anxiety or whatever, instead of sucking his thumb, he does this. So Shatner, the adult version of Matt Stone, will do this when the pressure is really getting to him. So. Because he's really messed up. So now he's going to move on to this other broad to swindle her, and ends up meeting this other woman that she has this younger friend that she plays matchmaker between them. And he's like, well, all right. He still wants to swindle this lady out. He claims that he's into yes, Dr. Evil. Perhaps that is the explanation for Dr. Evil. Although he seemed quite happy of himself. So I don't know if it was anxiety. But anyway, so Shatner, he's moved on to this next mark, and he claims to be this investment guy. He says, I can grow your money and all this sort of stuff. So he's got this old widow lady that living in a mansion, and he's like, he's just smelling the money all over the place, and charms her and all this stuff, and she's interested in, really, yeah, I could put my money into this, whatever it is, and all that, and does the same thing with her friend to a lesser degree, but he's also attracted to her. She's a pretty woman and all this, but she too is widowed, I believe. I don't think they said she was divorced, but well, right off the bat, the daughter is suspicious of the guy. Now, interestingly enough, the daughter actually meets Matt Stone first. He's just driving down the road, and I think he stops to, once again, light a cigarette or whatever, and the girl just hops in his car. He's like, what the hell's going on here? Strange times, not advisable for girls to do, but yeah, she was skipping school or whatever. So she's already a troubled girl to some extent. Well, to some extent, to a lot, if she's doing crazy things like that. So I don't know. He drives her a certain distance and she gets out, but eventually he gets in this relationship with her mother. And on some level, I guess he does seem to have some affection for this woman, but he's swindling her at the same time. And she works at this store, and so he's constantly hitting her up for some money and this sort of thing. Oh, it's all gonna work out, baby. Just relax. And so the girl, of course, no one is as good as Daddy ever was, so she doesn't like him from the get go, and so she's snooping around and spying on him. Plus, she's spying on him while he nails her mother, so she gets full view of that, looking through the window. So, oh well, what are you gonna do? And later on, he encounters an old friend that I think they might have been in prison together or something like that. But he's another crook, and he's like, "Yeah, I know who you are and what you're up to. So you're gonna cut me in on your latest score here." And Matt's like, oh, "Damn it!" And insinuates he knows a lot more. So maybe there are other murders that he did and that sort of thing. So he's like, and the guy's bigger than him, so he beats him and throws him around. And so he didn't use his Captain Kirk moves there, Although I forgot this. This is interesting for Star Trek. The scene where he kills the first woman at the in the early parts of the movie, and they're fighting and stuff, and she does the same move that Yeoman Rand did to the evil Kirk when Kirk split into two, so his aggressive side was all evil and tries to force himself on Yeoman Rand, and at some point she scratches his face. He's like, ah, and he does that exact same pose here because this woman scratches his face while they're fighting in the car. Oh, oh. So there's your Star Trek reference for Impulse. So anyway, doesn't go quite that way with the big, I don't know, Chinese, Japanese dude. He's pretty big, compared to Shatner. So Shatner says, yeah. Don't worry, man. I'll cut you in. No problem. So they arrange a meetup to discuss their plans and whatnot. So the guy's like, all right, I'll be there. And so he shows up at some, I don't know, a boating place or something like that. And he's walking around, and then all of a sudden this noose comes down from on high and lassos his neck. And it's Matt Stone on the roof, pulling the rope up and strangling the guy with the rope. But little does Matt know that little brat is hiding in his car again, and she's witnessing him murdering this man. And almost works, but oh no, Matt didn't anticipate that the guy had a knife in his pocket, so he grabs the knife and is able to cut the rope. So damn it! So Matt runs down, starts kicking him and stuff, and the guy's a bit weak from the attack, but he's recovering pretty quick. So then Matt's like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. So he has to run to the car, still doesn't see the little girls in his back seat, but he's, otherwise occupied. So he hops into the car and chases the dude, and the guy runs into a car wash. And so, of course, the car has to slow down going through that. And the guy's running through all the, little baffles or whatever this is. And he gets out of the other end. And then, of course, Shatner floors it and runs the guy over, and then backs up over him to make damn sure he's dead. And there you go. So realizes that the little girl saw this, and he's like, oh, damn it. He chases her, Tina, come on, Tina, and she's like, she's going to answer him after that, So eventually he does confront her about it. Look, he was a bad man. So it's perfectly fine. Yeah. So she tries to tell people, no one believes her. And, even her mother, it's like, you just got to get over this. I like this man. You got to give him a chance and all this sort of stuff. And, so he, that's not going to work out. Um, so ultimately, he ends up killing the the older woman that he's trying to rip off. And I guess he finds out she's not as wealthy as she lets on. She's probably burned through the money. But she does have a safe. She does have some amount of valuables in there's some jewelry and whatnot. But he fights with her, wants her to open the safe, ends up impaling her with a knife on the floor. He gets the safe open, and there's nothing in it. There's a bunch of papers and stuff, and so then he just sits on the floor and cries. um, and then the girlfriend, the mother, shows up, and he almost kills her by drowning her in the aquarium. But then to bookend the story, the girl, and in the old lady's mansion, I say old, like she's probably only a couple of years older than the other cast members. But anyway, in her house, it's got all this great. It's a mansion basically, and there's like not armor, not knight's armor, those things people would have. And the girl grabs a sword, just like at the beginning of the movie, and runs Shatner through. And so, how ironic that it ends this way, as it began. And he collapses and dies, and then mother and daughter leave. And boy, mother is never going to hear the end of this. I was right and you were wrong, and all this sort of stuff, But there you go. That's Impulse, starring William Shatner as Matt Stone. And it's it's got its moments and stuff like that. It's way better than Devil's Reign. I think Devil's Reign has a cult following for it and everything because it's just weird and bizarre and stuff. And plus, I mean, Shatner's in it, but I don't even know who you could say is the starring role. I guess Ernest Borgnine, he plays the villain, so I guess that makes him the star of it. I don't know. And Shatner's like in the first half of it, and then then again, he does kind of become the hero. He destroys the magic bottle and all that stuff. But anyway, Impulse, I think it's better than that one. Yeah. So you got Kingdom of the Spiders, probably neck and neck with Horror at 37,000 feet. And then you got Impulse, I think. And then Devil's Reign, I think, is at the bottom of that list. Now, there's other movies. I think there was a movie, but he's not. I think he plays the husband or boyfriend of the main character that she's being stalked by a serial killer. The Visiting Hours or something like that. Yeah, but I'll probably get to it at some point. But he's in it, but I don't know that you can really consider that a full-on Shatner movie like these were. So anyway, there you go, Impulse. And Matt Stone failed to resist his impulse to kill until it got him killed. And, sure, the girl was, obnoxious and bratty, but in the end, she was right about him. She was right. All right, there we go. Time permitting, I will draw a picture of Shatner, I think. I probably shouldn't have said that because I don't know. It depends on the pain of my leg sitting in this chair. But right now, it's not hurting at all. So, you never know. All right. There was some amount of commentary that, Dr. Evil. And, Grizzly. I've never seen that one, I don't think. I saw Grizzly Man. Oh, geez. But that's a real life story. Wow. Yeah. I've never done a review of it. I could still do that. But man, oh man, what a mess that was. Pale Ale says, doesn't this movie have a similar plot to Silent Night, Deadly Night? The kid is traumatized, then follows suit. I haven't seen Silent Night, Deadly Night. I'm sure. For that matter, even Psycho he was traumatized and dominated by his mother, so he becomes this nut. There's always something like that. Some of them is like, Halloween definitely suggests some supernatural elements to Michael Myers. It's just, he could not have survived those bullets and all that. But it's scarier in the sense, I mean the original, not the Rob Zombie reboot or remake or whatever, but the original, where there's no explanation other than he's got the devil in him for some reason. And because otherwise, it's like, well, he was traumatized as a child, his parents were crap and all that. Which doesn't, an explanation is an explanation. It doesn't excuse anything, of course. But then there's plenty of people who had crappy childhoods and they don't become homicidal maniacs. So, Pell, his phasers weren't on stun that day. No, they were not. If only he had them, because then, you can clean up the mess very easily. You put it on kill and the problem goes away. Not even a stain. That's it. It's as if they never existed. Well, I won't be seeing him no more. And there you go. You're good to go. Although later the phasers weren't as cool as the originals. They would kind of burn up sometimes when they shoot them, and little flecks here and there. So there's probably still some evidence laying around. I think there was an episode. Yeah, that's right. They thought Captain Picard had been killed and they were looking for evidence, but there wasn't the residue. So in this movie, he's got to sacrifice the car. So he just dumps her into the lake. And gee, I hope they won't do too much of an autopsy to figure out what happened. All right. Sorry and brandy. I said, give me the brandy. Yes, Rudy Baga. That is what he did. Then he went off swindling widows and all that. Movie sounds way better than Star Trek 6. Well, Star Trek. Oh, you meant 5. Yeah. 5. Although 5, Star Trek 5 is a good one. It's got its problems, The odd thing about it is Star Trek 5 and the motion picture are probably two of the closest to a typical Star Trek episode. It's, there's certain amount of elements. There's certainly motion pictures, a sci-fi concept, although they did that in the old show with what was it, Nomad or whatever. And Star Trek 5, episodes like that would happen, and at the core where they think they're going to meet God and it's some alien pulling a fast one and that kind of thing. Yeah, an episode of Star Trek would have done that. Probably better, but there was problems going there. But of course, none of that changes the fact that Wrath of Khan is their best movie. Frankfurt, hi Doug, you, Tass, and the Kumia fans defend him to no end. Is there a universe where he actually? Okay, I'm tired of this stuff. I'm sorry. I'm just not dealing with that. That's enough of that. Alexandria, row your boat. Oh yeah. Star Trek 5. That's how it ended, and that's the clue, that it was all a dream, so it didn't really happen. So you don't have to worry about it. Pell, I never trusted Klingons. Oh yeah, I never trusted Klingons. I never will. I can never forgive them for the death of my boy. Yeah, you can understand his position. Pell, what if the cop that discovered the body was YJ Hooker? Well, see, that's the split of Kirk's. It never got resolved. So his evil half is swindling widows and killing them. And the good Kirk went on to be a police officer and changed his name to TJ Hooker or YJ Hooker. Gary Ambrose. Hi, Gary. There's Gary. Gary Ambrose. Michael Myers is a psychopathic robot created by the Silver Shamrock Novelty Company. That's right. So he bought the William Shatner mask, put that on, and it transformed him into an unstoppable killer. And now there you go. Have a happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Have a happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Don't delay. Get your Silver Shamrock mask today. That's how that went. Yeah. And that's another, the Shatner mask that they use. They just painted it white. But even if they hadn't, it's still creepy looking. I mean, I don't know. Come on. And, but when I was watching The Devil's Reign, you know, when Shatner gets turned to the cult, and of course his eyes are gone. So it's these black holes there. And I'm like, oh, geez, was that the inspiration for the man? I don't know. Joel Amata, here we go. Would it go against the Prime Directive to rescue someone from the Phantom Zone? Yeah, I guess so. You know, I mean, I mean, maybe not in the sense that, you know, Krypton is dead. It's gone. So do the laws of Krypton still apply? That they were sentenced to the Phantom Zone. And I don't know if they intended to be in the Phantom Zone for all eternity, which they could be. You know, you don't die in the Phantom Zone. You just float around in there forever. And so, but then the society that you're trying to protect and to develop on its own, then you wouldn't interfere. But then you find just a few remnants of them trapped in this dimension. And I mean, if something like that would happen, the Enterprise might accidentally stumble upon it, and beam them out. And then suddenly they discover, oh my God, they're super powerful and they're going to take the ship, Yeah. So I guess it wouldn't apply because the civilization that they're from is no more. It's gone. Then there's also the idea that Krypton appears to be highly advanced. So it's not like one that's hasn't. I think the rule of thumb is if you can develop warp technology, then you can join the Galactic Society or whatever and be, interacted with and all that sort of stuff. Pell, he went on a spree of terror after being reduced in rank from admiral to captain. Yeah, he never got over that. I mean, he says, my God, I traveled through time to bring you some wells to save everybody from a menace that was just all a misunderstanding. Sure, but I did it, and I still get a reduction in rank. But on the other hand, they gave him a brand new Enterprise. They just, I don't know, pulled that one out from somewhere. I mean, that's the thing about Star Trek 4. The obvious thing would be they just slap the name Enterprise on the Excelsior and give them that one because that was supposed to be the new line of ships. It's like they said, the Enterprise is old. So that model was going out of service. The idea they just had another one laying around. I mean, I'm sure they did, but I guess they just spruced it up, refurbished it, and said, you know what? We feel bad, and we know you're really beyond the age you should be running these ships, but what the hell? You saved the world and probably other worlds too from this weird thing. And all right, you can have the ship. And that's what they did. And then they had like 2 more missions, and then they retired. They said, all right, come on, you guys have had some fun, but yeah, that's what we got to do. Frank Sew the Handle. I won't say what Kumia's kryptonite is. I'm sure we can guess what it is. Yeah. Well. Okay. Now to the stories. That concludes Impulse. The Shatner movie. First time I saw it too. The Kingdom of the Spiders I'd seen, Devil's Reign I'd seen a very long time ago, and the airplane one I'd seen. Can't remember. It wasn't like at the time. I'd seen that much later. And I mean, I didn't see any of those in the theater or anything. And the airplane movie was a TV movie, but Devil's Reign was just on TV late at night, and I caught it. And the main thing I remembered was, and I remembered it that Tom Skerritt turns into Ernest Borgnine. I'd forgotten that no, it's the girlfriend who turns into Ernest Borgnine. So Tom Skerritt is going home with, well, not his girlfriend, his wife. His wife is Ernest Borgnine. Oh my God. That's horror. So anyway, Joe Lamont, Sama, maybe not spacefaring. Kal-El's ship seemed a prototype. Yeah, well, they go back and forth on that about Krypton, and sometimes they say, oh, they became isolationist and didn't want to mix with the outside universe because they anticipated problems, what have you. Certainly in the Zack Snyder films, that was the idea, that they did that. The technology that they had, you kind of come up with, why is the reason they weren't spacefaring, and other elements they just said they were. It just depends on which version you go with. As long as the main things happen, the planet blew up, and well, most of them are dead. They always wanted to call Superman the last son of Krypton, but you can't really do that when you've got, Zod and his crew still alive and stuff like that. So, yeah, it just depends, I guess. Rudy Bug, okay, once more around the sun, then it's time to take Grandpa's keys. Yes, that's pretty much what happened. They decommissioned the ship after their final Klingon mission, and there you go. Pillow, I've had girlfriends that look like sport. Yeah, well, when the lights are off. Oh God. All right. Well, speaking of Kryptonians, here's a couple of articles dealing with Supergirl, and one of its problems that just based on the imagery alone, I noticed quite quickly, and so I kind of have some amount of agreement to the article, but not totally. In this one. So, Supergirl villain revives James Gunn's old Marvel problem. Well, right off the bat, you got a problem with this scenario. So, yeah, I agree. This is not a great villain, just based on, I haven't seen the movie, but by all accounts and reviews, one of the main complaints is the villain's bland and not that interesting. And he looks nothing like the comic book version of the villain. And it just looks really stupid. Also, Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy, that's not really a good rendition of him from the comic. Had they done something more akin to that, it probably would look better. But he's probably a better villain than this guy. But then again, I haven't seen Supergirl, but I did see Guardians of the Galaxy, and he was fine for the purpose he was there for that film. If there's one criticism of Supergirl reactions and reviews that should worry DC, it isn't messy or uneven. It's the one that keeps coming up about the villain. Bland. Because in the superhero business, a forgettable villain isn't a small problem. It's often the problem. Robert Downey Jr. just made that point himself. As Marvel rebuilds around his return as Doctor Doom, RDJ has been open about the lesson that the studio learned the hard way. The hero is only as good as the threat across from him. Yeah, that is true, and Thanos certainly provided that for their ultimate showdown. The thing is, Thanos was developed throughout several films. Notably, Guardians of the Galaxy was one of them. He really, we got to see more of him for the first time, was in that film. And then it built up to the big showdown. Whereas Doctor Doom, you're meeting him only in their Infinity War. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. But the villain has to be a serious threat. in order for your hero uh, to really shine forth. So that it's why Marvel bet its entire next phase on a great villain. Darth Vader, Thanos, Heath Ledger's Joker. The greats don't just give you a hero to cheer for; they give you a villain you can't forget. All right, there is a point here. Is Ronan a great villain? No, he's not. But Guardians of the Galaxy was a big hit. I mean, it had a fandom unto itself, really, not just the overall MCU thing. I wasn't that blown away by it, but other people loved that movie. So I guess you could just argue Ronan was good enough, and that's that. Doesn't sound like that's going to be the case for Supergirl. So for years, the loudest knock on Marvel was his villains. For every Loki or Thanos, which really was their only two good villains. Pretty much, yeah. Critics long argued there was a stack of forgettable one-and-done bad guys, interchangeable threats with vague grievances that audiences forgot before they left the parking lot. Marvel's villain problem became shorthand for the studio's weaker stretch, the flaw fans pointed to most. And one of the most cited examples came from a name that should sound familiar. Here's where it stings for Supergirl. The man overseeing the DCU directed one of those notoriously weak villains and admitted it. Asked years ago what he'd change about Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn pointed straight to its big bad. There was some messy villain plot stuff in the first movie. He'd like to redo, he said, explaining that a now defunct committee at Marvel had a lot of input, and that was primarily where it ended up. It just got a little messy. So you made Supergirl messy. Anyway, Ronan the Accuser became the textbook example of a one-note Marvel villain, and Gunn knew it. He just had somewhere to point the finger, the studio's creative committee. That's the irony hanging over Supergirl. However, this time Gunn isn't the director being overruled by the suits. He is the suit. Yeah, it's this Craig Gillespie guy is the director of Supergirl. So the DCU is his green light, his slate, his creative call. So if Krim of the Yellow Hills lands as another forgettable villain, there's no committee to blame. The buck stops at his office. Say she's not impressed, but she's counting the pins. She's like, how many are... That's it. 1, 2. And he says something. Damn it! Oh, gee. 1, 2, 3. The film looks like it may have lost the thread, as it apparently has nothing to do with the comic. Start with the design. The official look for Matthias Schoenaerts Krim trades the comic's character for a grotesque, creepy, heavy getup reportedly built out with a two-hooded rat and a bird-like creature. Food hanging off his belt. Okay. It looks less like a true Supergirl villain and more like a generic alien-heavy creature pulled from Gunn's own Guardians of the Galaxy playbook right out of Yondu's Ravagers. For a movie already fighting a looks like other Gunn universe content perception, a villain who looks interchangeable doesn't help. And it lines up with the bland tag critics keep reaching for. There's also a real question of whether the film keeps Krim as the focused personal threat the comic built, or expands the villainy into something broader and blurrier. Unverified rumors have pointed to a different, uglier antagonist setup that the comic's clean revenge structure. Treat it as a rumor, not a fact, but if the movie traded the comic's elegant, one cruel act, one long hunt engine for a more generic gang of bad guys plot, that would explain why the villain isn't landing. So there he is on the set. I feel like an idiot. No, it's great. So the bland villain is the criticism that should make DC wince hardest, precisely because of where it comes from. It's the exact flaw that dogged Marvel since its inception. It's the flaw RDJ says Marvel is now spending a fortune to fix. And it's the exact flaw Gunn himself contributed to, admitted to, and got to blame on someone else. So here's the full story. Gunn left the studio that became famous for forgettable villains, and the first reactions to his next DCU movie, it's Gunn's movie, make no mistake, flagged a forgettable villain. This time, it's his universe, his crim, his call, with no committee to point at. So there you go. That just doesn't. Yeah, that's. So yeah, he's a crappy villain. But if you were going to make this argument that you should be in trouble, they're in trouble for a lot of other reasons. This doesn't help. But the example of Guardians of the Galaxy is that if Supergirl can be another Guardians of the Galaxy, in DC or Warner Brothers is going to say, "Oh yeah, well, I'm fine with that." Yeah. So it's a tough one to make. It's not that it's completely incorrect. And I don't know that the problems with Guardians of the Galaxy is Ronan, even though Gunn himself said, yeah, I wasn't happy with that iteration of the villain or whatever. But it made the money, so that's it's kind of, but it's also important to when it comes to Guardians of the Galaxy, I think Cosmic Book News, Matt McCloin, he's a big fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy comic books, and that movie is not that story. I'm not as big a fan of it. I just didn't really get into it as he did. But even I know some of those elements, and it's just not there. So that's what happens. But the movie was a big hit. So. Pell, even in Superman 1, Jor-El told the council he wouldn't leave, so maybe they were. In Smallville, they were portrayed as space travelers. Yeah, it's just depending on how they want to deal with it, Joe Lamont Sama, would it go against the prime director to rescue Kirk's doppelganger, TJ, from falling off a runway car's roof? Yes, probably. Because at the time of TJ Hooker, the Earth did not have warp technology, so they were not ready to join the family of worlds in the galaxy. And Nodak, they should make an AI image of all the Ernest movies and put Ernest Borgnine instead of Ernest P. Worrell. Well, just wait a few minutes. You'll probably see that pop up on YouTube. Rudy Baga, cross between Ernest Borgnine and Shelley Winters. Well, they were a couple in the Poseidon Adventure, which that's another movie I need to revisit and do a review of. I need to do all the disaster movies. I think that's a good idea. Pell, Rudy Baga, LOL. I had to look her up. She was prettier than the one I dealt with. Yeah, Shelley Winters. Look at Shelley one time. Shelley Winters was quite the catch, but Pell like Tony Soprano too. What? Rudy Baga, I was thinking Poseidon Adventure. They were both in it. Yeah. But it turns out she was an Olympic swimmer, so they needed her to get through the other side. But then, she was morbidly obese and had a heart attack. And wait, what am I doing? Ernest Borgnine was not married to her. He was married to Stella Stevens. Yeah. He was a retired police officer, and she was a retired prostitute. Sure. And, her evening gown was not going to work when they had to climb the Christmas tree to get to the top of the bottom of the boat to get escape. And so they said, well, you're going to have to take that gown off. And, of course, Ernest didn't go for that, so he had to give up his shirt for her to wear, which still was really nice, not his shirt, her, and you wanted to be under her when she climbed up the tree, Oh yeah. Look at that. And of course, Ernest is like, what's he going to do? You're going to need everybody's help to get out of there. So look, we're in this horrible situation. Can't we have a little niceness to look at for a second or two, And that's why he was in his wife beater undershirt throughout the movie. To protect his wife's modesty, Rudy Baga. Oh, LOL, right over my head that went. Pellel, Tyrone Magnus reviewed Supergirl. 2 of 5 woos. He didn't like it. Kind of lame story and boring. But he said it wasn't as woke as he expected. More times than not, well, not more times than not, but that does happen. The marketing for, which means the marketing for it is absolutely atrocious, and all that type of stuff. So, but the more I hear about it and plot wise and stuff, it appears, and this is amazing because I absolutely do not like the writing of Tom King in DC Comics, but his comic book that this is based on is probably leaps and bounds better than the movie. And that being said, about the comics that he's done that I've read, that I just like, what a waste of time. His Supergirl comic is probably his best work. And it's a ripoff of True Grit, plot-wise. But other than that, and the art's really good. He's always got great artists on his comics, but the comics are just awful. Alexandria, does anyone have nice hair in this movie? In Impulse, the lonely lady does. She's got nice hair. The CGI dog probably does. Oh, nice hair in Supergirl. Yeah. Probably the girl. Yeah. Alexandria, if I was the villain, I would use a comb made of kryptonite. Oh yeah. Pellel Alexandria says, speaking of bad villains, Lex Luthor and Cavill's Superman had nice hair. Yeah. Not as a bad villain. He shaved it out. Yeah. It got shaved off in prison, which I don't know. And then he keeps it like that because he was, he shows up in the teaser at the end of Justice League. Yeah, but then he was recently broken out, so I don't know. Anyway, Pellel, Tony Soprano, unforgettable villain. Oh yeah. Pellel, he played the devil in Convoy, aka Dirty Lyle. I didn't see Convoy, so who played? You mean did Shatner play the devil in the Convoy movie? So I don't know. Joe Lamont, if you do disasters, don't forget the Swarm. Yes, the Swarm. I did see that one long ago, but yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Which I like. Kane said, though panned, it bought him a nice house. Well, good for Kane. But yeah. That yeah, that's on the list. Yeah. Alexandria, Meteor with Sean Connery, right? Yep, doing that with Sean Connery and Natalie Wood in that one. Joe Lamont, Ernest Borgnine versus Lionel Stander. Joe Lamont, 7 of 9, cousin of Borgnine. Captain Infinity says hi, or popcorn. Dirty Lyle was Ernest Borgnine's role as a crooked cop. Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to be doing Ernest Borgnine movies as well. See, they cross. Yeah. All right. I don't think I've ever seen the first Airport movie. I've seen Airport Concorde and Airport 75. And then of course Airplane, which is the greatest airplane movie ever made. It's in the name. But the original one with Burt Lancaster, I believe, that started the trend. But Poseidon Adventure, I've seen that. Even the sequel, and Towering Inferno, that's another one. I'll throw that in there. And Earthquake with Charlton Heston. So anyway, that's it for Supergirl. But the other big movie that really wants to make an impact, of course, is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. And it's made some rounds, for some interesting choices. Christopher Nolan teases most brutal battle as Empire reveals 4 covers. So this is all part of the promo. So Empire Magazine's got, and it's not bad. There's a Matt Damon posing. He's Odysseus in armor that it might have been correct to it, but you can get away with some of this and just say, hey, look, it's fantasy and whatnot, even though likely there was an actual Trojan War, but just not all the magic stuff, or maybe there was. But this looks like he's about to battle a bunch of robots. That's like the armor is really over the top. There's Spider-Man. He's in the movie too. Well, Nolan's in the movie, but behind the camera, so you'd probably never see him. But there he is. He's you got a booger in your nose, Matt. Oh, damn it. So he's taking care of that. And okay, here's the full cover. So you see, now this might be, I don't know how much of the Trojan War they'll depict, because the Trojan War is over at the beginning of the Odyssey. So, but we know the Trojan horse is in it, and I don't like their design for it. It looks really, that's just stupid. But they're going full, I guess, fantastic elements of it. This might be maybe it's Ares and the gods coming to do battle with him. I don't know. Or he goes to an island of giants, and he's got to battle the Cyclops and stuff like that. So, but this armor, I mean, it's almost like stormtroopers and stuff, it's like they almost should be carrying ray guns, So, but oh, what's this about? This cool vision, and it's like, what's the Odyssey? Huh? You mean Space Odyssey? So I don't know. And Anne Hathaway plays his wife, stuck at home, but I guess in the end she'll be the real hero of the whole movie, or perhaps Elliot. There she is. Where is that man? God, he's always late. For 10 years he wandered around in the Mediterranean after the war. Yeah. So anyway, that's just a couple of the imagery of it. So there's going to be a lot of cool looking stuff in it and fantastical elements, leaning heavily into the myth that it was. It's just too bad it's not based on the actual Odyssey. Instead, it's based on the feminist deconstruction book of it. So right off the bat, that's a really bad choice. So meanwhile, the Odyssey is skipping influencer screenings as Hollywood's early buzz machine shows cracks. Well, that's, when it comes to crack, you got to pull your pants up, because no one wants to see that. We all know this, right? Anyway, Universal has decided to skip influencer screenings for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, going straight to professional critics, the real deal, after the film's London premiere on July 6th. The movie breaks from the now standard industry practicing of holding word-of-mouth screenings, which is your best bet. Look what it did for Obsession and the Backrooms, for influencers and fan site bloggers before critics get access, a strategy designed to flood social media with positive early reactions before full reviews land. The Hollywood Reporter framed the decision as a confident flex by Universal. I don't think so. But the timing tells a bigger story. The influencer screening model is showing cracks. So now they're showing their cracks too. That's really nasty. And studios may be starting to notice. Starting to? I mean, you're going to notice that when someone's like, oh my God, don't look. Universal's decision comes days after influencer and early fan screenings for Supergirl produced results that studios typically try to avoid. Influencer screenings are supposed to generate a wave of enthusiastic early buzz that sets the narrative before critics weigh in. With Supergirl, that wave never materialized the way Warner Brothers needed it to. Instead of the usual flood of all caps praise, Many of the influencers and early access voices were more measured, and some were outright negative. Film threat Chris Gore called the film terrible after his screening. Grace Randolph posted a cryptic, "How unfortunate" reaction. Yeah. Multiple early voices compared the film unfavorably to Guardians of the Galaxy and Mad Max. I don't think that's unfavorable at all. It's exactly what it sounds like. Praised Millie Alcock's performance, but flagged a weak script and an uninteresting villain. So they got all that right, but just not the Mad Max. The film currently sits at 58% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is not the number a studio gets when its influencer strategy is working. Well, the strategy depends on what they see. They watched it, and then they told everybody what they saw. Oh, you needed to maneuver around that and get some shills. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The pattern was notable because it showed that even the voices studios rely on for early enthusiasm could not consistently sell a film that did not deliver. Well, that just means they didn't lie about it. You know? And at this point, you can smell a shill a mile away. They're not really giving you anything. You know, more times than not, the negative ones are spelling out actual aspects of the film itself. So that gives you a pretty good clue of, yeah. Audiences watching these reactions in real time could see the gap between the usual influencer excitement and what Supergirl actually generated. And that gap erodes the credibility of the entire system. Not really. I mean, you can choose not to give pre-screenings to some of these people that, do YouTube channels or the influencers or what have you. Okay. But, and word of mouth comes from, I'm talking about audience reactions. Your movie opens, you want your big opening and then it tanks afterwards. That's still going to be a problem because you get these people in there and they're all going to come up, don't waste your time or money on this. And then it just collapses after that. And these are expensive movies, so you can't just have a big opening. You got to have legs. And a lot of these don't. And Supergirl, good Lord. If Supergirl showed what happens when influencers cannot fake enthusiasm, Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day, Discovery Day, showed the other failure mode. Universal held influencer screenings for Disclosure Day earlier this summer. The early reactions were rapturous, with multiple influencers calling it Spielberg's best film in 20 years. Yeah, but there was also, I read the early reactions. There was also people being pretty level about it. And the main thing, the main problem, and when you see a consistent reaction, you realize just how true it is. And it was like, it's a movie that teases a bunch of stuff about aliens and all that, and then doesn't deliver. There's no payoff to the tease. You can't do that. You're doing a movie about a mystery. You got to solve the mystery. And right off the bat, that right there was a big red flag for it. The rest of them were, it's the best ever. Steven Spielberg is back. He's back in sci-fi. Oh my God. Thank God Steven Spielberg's back in sci-fi. That kind of thing. Well, that's too much. So I'm not going to believe that to begin with. So I'm not buying that. Well, this system and that system and all that. No, is the movie any good? Then the actual review embargo lifted and professional critics were far more reserved. Essentially, I think a lot of these people were lying. So that's access media. It doesn't matter what you quote unquote professional is, because there's plenty of people that are influencers and they're full of crap too. They will shield for these things. And a lot of them will suddenly they're getting interviews from directors and stars and stuff like that. The other people said, yeah, the movie's not that great. They don't get interviews. And you know why? This disconnect was public and immediate. Audiences who had been primed to expect a masterpiece walked into something that critics treated as solid but not spectacular. It sounds like it was worse than that. I mean, you tease about the alien reveal and then it suddenly goes to credits. that's not going to be good. The influencer hype had set expectations the film could not meet, which arguably hurt it more than no early buzz would have. Well, it's Steven Spielberg. It really didn't need that. So there's hype no matter what. You expect better out of someone like Spielberg. And then, well, Universal has now seen both sides of the influencer screening problem play out in the same summer. Influencer who cannot sell a weak film, Supergirl, and influencers whose overselling creates a credibility. It would always. Overselling it. You mean they lied? Someone's going to see the movie, and then for the influencer, your channel, what that does damage to you. So I used to like this guy. I listened to him a lot, and then lately the movies he recommends are just absolute garbage. That's the end of that channel. You lost that viewer, It's just that simple. There's no magic trick here. Sooner or later, they're going to see the movie and find out. And then the real word of mouth goes back to the audience. That gets around and cuts off the legs you might have had if you had done a good movie. So with Odyssey, they're removing the variable altogether. So, you don't know anything. We know quite a bit, and it's, everybody's upset for a variety of reasons. So that's hurting it going in. So anyway, no influencer buffer, no controlled first wave of social media takes. It is control. They're not letting anybody see it. And here, Nolan right now, for the most part, has probably been the best director of his generation, I guess, and so in a way he's almost in the position of Spielberg. Spielberg was, a bigger player in this in his prime and whatnot, but he's kind of there. So it's a Nolan film. So there's a following for his films anyway. So he's a guy who, yes, could dodge all this early stuff. It doesn't necessarily need it. But what's been leaked already has not gone over well. So seeing the actual film ahead of time, might not work. But then there you go. He'll depend on the actual word of mouth. Despite all the troubles and the red flags about this film, people go and see it. There's a certain curiosity for it anyway. So it might make numbers. And then they see it and say, you know what? In spite of it all, it's a pretty good film. There are movies that I think are crap in some elements and ways. Sometimes it's message. Sometimes movies that are supposed to be about history and whatnot and get it completely wrong. But at the same time, the movie is very well made. And so that can happen too. So this is a statement of confidence in the product. No, it's where they are. That might not be a statement of confidence. It might be for Nolan, that he's in a position to do that, which others really can't afford to do this. I don't think that's a confidence. I think that's the opposite. Because as everyone's already said what they're seeing about it, they're not liking, and it might be absolutely true about it, especially if it's a loyal adaptation to that crappy deconstruction of the story. I got no interest in that. So it also fits Nolan's established pattern of skipping film festivals, relying on minimalistic marketing and keeping details under wraps until audiences are in theaters, which is odd considering it's a story most people know, I would think. Maybe not everybody, but It's about as old a classic as you can get. But anyway, Nolan has never needed influence to sell his films. Yeah, this is a Nolan thing, you know. But what could go wrong with the film? Now look, I'm more in the camp that Elliot is not Achilles. I think it's that other character who was the young sailor on Odysseus' boat who dies, and then Odysseus encounters him in the underworld. So there may be, he does meet Achilles in the underworld. There may be an Achilles there. I don't know. But anyway, there is another reason Universal may want to skip the influencer screening step entirely. The Odyssey is already one of the most polarizing blockbusters. Yes. But it's also Nolan's approach. So it kind of works out that way too, I suppose. The casting of Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy has drawn sustained criticism, right, including from Elon Musk and from the Greek community, which published an open letter calling out the lack of Greek representation in the confirmed principal cast. When you preach this stuff, it will bite you on the ass because, you know, you're not consistent. And this is an ancient Greek myth. It's their culture and their history and all. Plus, he shot on their property and got the tax benefits from it. And this is how you treat them, huh? So when you go into this stuff about representation, identity politics, and whatnot, you're a fool. And it's not a good thing. So Zendaya's casting as the goddess Athena and Elliot Page's rumored role. Now, when it comes to a goddess, well, I mean, the goddess can look like whatever she wants. But Elliot, possibly Achilles. Yeah, no. But even the other role, it's like Elliot, it's not really, have also fueled online debate. Audience interest has dipped amid the controversy. Influencer screenings would risk turning the first wave of public reactions into a referendum on the casting rather than a conversation about the film itself. Not really, because you've already had the wave. I mean, I'm not going to go read another article going on about, Elliot and Napita and all that. That's all you're going to tell me. You go to a film review to hear about the movie itself. And if you don't want to give spoilers, but you can give aspects of what the story does and where it goes. I mean, you can make a mention, well, badly cast film, but other than that, something like that. So I'm just, this article's making mistakes here. Professional critics are more likely to evaluate the Odyssey on its filmmaking merits by going straight to critics, yet that hasn't been true for a good long while. Most of the quote-unquote professional critics are probably going to praise this. Some of them who actually care about their own merit, and at this point, all of them should give an absolute objective view of it. Now, objectively, there could be some very strong points. It's Christopher Nolan. He's been really good. There could be some very strong aspects of this film. But it's hard when you do this identity stuff and it kicks you out of whatever movie you're making. And is it strong enough to where you can ignore that? I doubt it. The calculation only works if the film is strong enough to shift the conversation on its own. Universal believe it is. Well, what are they going to do? They already put the money into it. So, they got to hope for it. Yeah, I'm not buying the conclusions here. Will Harrigan. Yeah, no, I don't think so. It comes down to the movie's good enough. This could easily be not confidence in it, but fear. Now, it is Christopher Nolan. He's got a successful background, so they can bank on that and have confidence in it. But the overall thing for movies going forward, and I've said this repeatedly, however unfair it might be, if your film has a whiff of wokeness, whether it's gender swapping, race swapping, the messaging, what appears to be the elements of the plot of what it really wants to tell the audience and that sort of thing. And the marketing and promos do it in a disservice by showcasing elements that really aren't all that big of a deal about the film and that sort of thing. Then it's death for the movie. Because, sometimes you go, well, it really wasn't all that woke. Someone in the chat saying Supergirl wasn't really all that woke. But the perception is that it is. And so it's already more of the harm to the film that might just be a bad film, not just because of any woke elements. But that's the deal. That's the lesson. This is where you are. And when you have something like that right on the face of it, you're bleeding audience. You're losing it. It's just, there was a pretty good take on the Odyssey back in the 90s. Armand Asante played Odysseus in a TV miniseries. Been a while since I've seen that. Need to look it up. But it wasn't bad. It's the story rather than this. This is beyond all the casting and all that and the costumes and everything. When I heard that this was really based on, this Marxist feminist book, it's like, oh no. Like, oh no. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. So that doesn't sound great to me. So, but I mean, to bet against Nolan. Well, there's a first time for everything, and sometimes, the big kahuna's got to take a loss, and you're getting a little too big for your britches. Boy, talking about that crap took a long time. Gee, I didn't think it would. I guess I babbled too much. You think so? Nah. Okay. Dean Martin. Yeah, he was in Airport. That's right. Yeah. Rudy Baga Shatter as Buck Murdoch in Airplane 2. Oh, Shatner, but yeah, Airplane 2. Yeah. Oh, what's going on here? It's just this machine where the lights go back and forth, but we don't know why. That's insane. You've got to find out why these lights going back and forth all the time. I still laugh at the scene where he was talking through the TV when yes. And they all got to make the noise when the door closes and opens. Why the hell aren't I notified about these things? Yeah. It was a great movie, but it wasn't a great movie, but it had its moments, Bill. What, Airplane 2? I mean, the first one's the best, I'm sure, yes. But I don't know. I really liked Airplane 2. Anyway, Captain Infinity, Time Travel Police. Maybe they're regular size and he got shrunk. Yeah, it could be. Hell, 100% Rudy. The part with the periscope where he sees the Enterprise was good. I'm my humble but lame opinion. Nodak, I saw the Odyssey trailer before the movie Backrooms. I think I got the gist of it until it's streaming. So you're just gonna wait till it's streaming. That's what streaming has done. That's another big hurdle for movies. Joe Lamont Sama, Metatron ripped Odyssey a new one, both because of the armor and Helen's Ultra Disclosure Day is like Bridge of Spies. B for boring. So that's what I've heard. Yeah. Rudy Baga Roaches too, Tommy. Rudy Baga Ops, wrong chat. All right. Rodak, well, the people on Hollywood already have built-in excuse if the movie does poorly, that the flyover states are transphobic. Yeah. That's exactly what they'll do. Pellel, from how you describe it, it should be named the Clodacy. Know what I'm saying? Yeah, that would be perhaps the Mad Magazine title of the parody. The Clodacy. Oh, well. All right, back to horror movies. Let's see here. You got to do this, share this screen. You have to do this, share this screen. I'm not sure about this. Evil Dead. I think once the Bruce Campbell stuff was over, it's just another horror movie, you know. I mean, some people really hated the last one. I didn't, but it's not the greatest thing in the world. I didn't see. It's like, well, we're gonna do another one. I'm like, okay. It's just the Book of the Dead now. You know, it just shows up and people mess with it. So this will be another one where people, you know, need something to read on the crapper and they grab the Book of the Dead. No. Something comes up out of the toilet and gets you, you know. So it's already out, I believe. So anyway, there's some character posters here. Here's the little, I guess I can play something from X, right?
What's wrong? Can you look under the bed? Make sure there aren't any monsters.
You're a little old for that, aren't you?
Your grandfather, since the devil would return.
Calm down.
If anyone read from
the
Book of the Dead.
Ew.
Evil Dead burn.
Good night, Mom.
Oh, jeez.
July 10th.
What's the big deal? She's just sitting up in the bed. I don't know. Well, yeah, you see what I mean? And then it looked like the Book of the Dead got cleaned up or something. You know, it didn't look like it's supposed to. Anyway, here's the posters. So I guess someone's going to be bludgeoned to death with that. Here's some other weapons for people to be murdered with. A weed whacker. The headrest of a seat. Someone's going to get beaten with that. And then the corkscrew. Someone's going to get screwed by the corkscrew. Yeah. So, Evil Dead Burn. Well, they got medicine for that, but it unleashes the franchise's most savage and terrifying ride to date. I doubt it. Blazing onto big screens with an all-new chapter of carnage and demonic mayhem. After the loss of her husband, a woman seeks solace with her in-laws in their secluded family home. As one by one, they are transformed into deadites, turning the gathering into a family reunion from hell. She comes to discover that the vows she took in life live on, even in death. So I guess don't ever take vows. I don't know. It's got all the familiar stuff, and I remember the first trailer. This woman drinks the candle wax, you know. So it's all this gruesome stuff, but it's just another scenario of somebody's got the book. Like I said, you know, you accidentally grabbed it because you needed something to read on the crapper, and you crapped your whole life away because you should never read that damn book. Yeah. Yeah. So the idea of, like, you know, Evil Dead was originally just, it was going to be this horror movie about these guys in that cabin and they find that book and all that sort of stuff. And then it went off into this weird direction, which, you know, gave you Ash and all that stuff and Army of Darkness and everything. And then he had that cool TV series. And, you know, and then now you're going to, hey, let's get back to it. So they did the one where they basically swapped out Ash for a girl to be the main character in that one. And, you know, for what it was, it's just basically, you do something like that, you just need to do a horror movie of all your own that you took a lot of influence from Evil Dead, rather than slapping the name on it. Because I don't know, and they're not coming up with any interesting ideas about the Book of the Dead itself, and its history and whatnot. I mean, what other story is there to tell is the answer you have to come up with for doing stuff like that, other than just, well, I want to make a horror movie, but I want it to get as big an audience as possible. So I thought if I took the brand name of Evil Dead, that might work. And that's true of anything else. And yeah, Evil Dead Burn, perhaps Evil Dead Burnout. I don't know. But I don't know. If it gets an audience and it works, well, they'll make another one. Oh, yes. So, plus typically, horror movies are cheap to make, usually, although something like this probably a little more pricey than something like Obsession, which is great. That's probably one of the best films of the year. Yeah, the state of affairs is very simple, but still. So I don't know. I'm not psyched for Evil Dead Burn, and probably will wait for streaming on that one at some point. And it's too bad, but I don't know what else to do with the property other than, like I said, you could explore the Book of the Dead and see avenues there about that. Perhaps what's his name, the mysterious professor who discovered the thing, could do a backstory on that, I suppose. But this just, I don't know. And I suppose there's any curiosity to it as well. How did they get a hold of the book and that sort of thing? And that somebody wants to use it and, oh, crap, and then everything, well, it goes to hell, So, gee, I think I spoiled the whole movie. Oh, no. That's too bad. That's just too damn bad. What are you going to do? Well, wait for streaming, I guess. I don't know. Joe Lamont, Sama, if someone wants to gender swap some musical like Seven Brides for Seven Brides, that's okay. A gay audience might not minutes or mind, you mean? But you can't gender swap the Dirty Dozen. Well, give it time. At this point, I don't know. I mean, where are you going to get the money? Who is so stupid as to keep doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, quintupling down? I mean, eventually money runs out. Nonek, oh yeah, I forgot about the Odyssey 2-part miniseries on NBC. I remember it being decent. Yeah, it wasn't bad. Rudy Baga, it's not Evil Dead without Ash. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. And which is why you just want to do a horror movie about people that get possessed and do horrible things. And then it's like, well, I really want that Book of the Dead element in there. Yeah, well, I think you just want the brand name because you don't trust your own abilities. Yeah. Joe Lamont, I want to watch that new movie where people are trapped in a house where they have to listen to someone read the Necromonicon. Evil Dead, Bernie Sanders. You don't need $1 million. You don't. There should be a wealth tax. That would pay the fair share. Then we could have health care. I almost went into Schwarzenegger there, yeah. Well, anyway, okay, our next movie, well, it's a werewolf, but is it a horror movie? Probably not. It looks more like action, adventure. So, yeah, some people try to do that. Doesn't always work out, though. Although this looks like a scene from when he was Kraven the Hunter. Didn't he do that movie for Sony? It came and went and died, like most of their Spider-Man movies with no Spider-Man. But now, I guess they let him keep the costume so he can wear it in this one. Just on the on the visual of it, or the concept is that it's a werewolf movie set back in old medieval times, I believe. And that would be interesting because that's where the folklore began. And if you had more of something of that, that would be an interesting take on the werewolf concept. So anyway, the first trailer for Robert Eggers' Werewolf is expected to release on June 29th. So get ready to coincide with the next full moon. And following a Moody, what's he got to do with this? But rather nondescript shot of a mist-covered forest, we finally have an official look at the movie. Oh, maybe this is his Kraven the Hunter outfit. So it's probably a shot from Kraven the Hunter, is it? I don't know. Anyway, the Esquire has shared a promo still featuring Aaron Taylor Johnson as the unnamed protagonist who will become the titular werewolf. Oh, so maybe it is the image. Is that the thing? Oh, that's the image they're talking. Okay, so this is Kraven the Hunter. So his name's not Kraven in the movie. So anyway, says he's a farmer, Eggers says of the character. He's a man who's cursed. It's a story about a man who is, cursed and is trying to find salvation through love. He's a character who is haunted because he's cursed and in great pain because, he's cursed. Nobody has a name in the movie because, cursed, aside from the dog. Well, anyway, Eggers was careful not to give away too much, I'll say. Won't even tell you who the character is about this. Well, he's a farmer, he's cursed, and upset about it because he's cursed and all that. But he did reveal that werewolf won't include the usual tropes associated with the Wolfman myth. Backpedaling away from influences and mythologies that do and don't have to do with the film. Don't do and don't do. The cool thing about going back into the past is that you can kind of hit a reset button. So all the cliches of being bitten by a werewolf and silver bullets and a lot of the stuff that has become almost campy doesn't exist in the mythology of this movie. Well, it didn't exist in the mythology at all. All that stuff came out of the Wolfman movie that Universal made with Lon Chaney. Oh, you say, so you don't need to have seen Lon Chaney Jr.'s The Wolfman or American Werewolf in London to get what's going on here. Right. That's all 20th century cinematic stuff. The silver bullets, getting bitten by a wolf, all that stuff had nothing to do with werewolf lore other than people turning into wolves. Yeah. So the filmmaker also revealed that Willem Dafoe will play a hunter, and that Lily Rose Depp is the heart of the movie. So she was in that Nosferatu movie, which should have just been named Dracula instead of Nosferatu, because I know Nosferatu. He didn't look like that. Anyway, Lily is truly transformative. Does she turn into a wolf? There's a very clear physical change in her body and her makeup. All right, so she's going to turn into a wolf, huh? But she inhabits a very different person that's very different from her and very different from any characters. So she's really different. That might make a difference. She's Aaron's wife, and she's a mother of several children, so she had a litter, and also a farmer. She's sort of the most gracious person in the film. So maybe she is the werewolf, and that's the curse. He's got to live with his wife who sometimes can be a bitch, This is a genre Eggers feels passionate about as the Northman. Oh, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I need to see. I haven't seen it, but I really need to. I heard very good things about it. Is the only one of his 4 previous films that doesn't contain any horror elements, and that's probably debatable. Eggers said that this movie is the darkest thing he's ever written during a recent film at Lincoln Center Q&A session. But yeah, it's a medieval werewolf movie, and it's also the darkest thing I've ever written by far. Werewolf is released Christmas Day. This doesn't sound like a Christmas movie, does it? I mean, does it have a happy ending and St. Nicholas comes and fixes everything and werewolf gets some doggy biscuits? I don't know. Um, but it is an interesting thing to go back to, if that's the intent, to the medieval roots of the werewolf myth. You know, if it's like that old story, there was one uh, where there was a werewolf and they were trying to, kill it, of course, because it was attacking livestock and it was dangerous and everyone was scared and all that stuff. And eventually they confronted the wolf and attacked it and were able to cut off one of its paws. And but it got away. And then the leader of the group said, "Damn it, it got away again." So he goes back home and discovers his wife bandaging her stump because her hand has been chopped off. And he realizes, pum, 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 his wife was the wolf all along. That might be the story he's adapting. I don't know. So I just spoiled this one as well. Possibly. But maybe not. There's always that. I guess we'll find out when we see the movie. I mean, are we? Will you? I don't know. Oh, geez, I went too far here. Bernie, no. Best serious werewolf movie I have seen, Dog Soldiers. I haven't seen it, so that's another one I got to put on the list. Pale Ale, I like to make werewolf movies. Oh, all right. Pale Ale, Evil Dead Possession, the Steel Toe Polykill. Yeah. So that's what happened. Aaron Emmett, he's the guy who had to take a crap and he just grabbed something in a hurry to read. Turned out it was the Book of the Dead. And he got possessed by a female deadeye. Who went slurping, Nodak says, so a werewolf technically wouldn't have survived a Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band concert. No, it would if it's a medieval werewolf. But if it's a 20th century werewolf, no, it wouldn't. So, hey, let's go to the show. What show? What are you talking about? Well, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. Oh, no, I can't go. What are you talking about? It's a great show. You don't know what you're missing. I'm not going. Oh, right. You're a werewolf. Sorry. Well, odds are the movie will be better than Kraven the Hunter. I only say that because I haven't heard anybody say that Kraven the Hunter movie is pretty good. I want to check it out. I haven't heard any of that. All I've heard, I don't know if I've heard from anybody who's seen it. Because there's people saw Morbius and Madam Web because they thought they're going to get to see Sydney Sweeney swinging around in her very, very tight, form-fitting Spider-Woman suit. But it's only for a few seconds. And people must have been upset about that, yeah. As for the rest of it, I don't know what the hell that movie was about. But anyway, but Kraven. Yeah, it just came and went. I don't know. Did anyone see it? I don't know. Huh. Oh, well, whatever. So another movie that you wouldn't have thought would be a horror movie, but that's how they're gonna go with that. They're gonna make it a horror movie. Essentially, it's a Batman movie with no Batman, but they were successful one time with this idea with Joker, and then they screwed that up with the sequel because too much of the wrong people liked Joker, so you had to do a movie to piss off, the right people that you don't like, or to please the cool kids and stuff. Anyway, you know how it went. So now we're going to do Clayface, which is apparently, according to James Gunn, is a part of their DCU, provided it lives long enough, which is looking less likely with Supergirl, will they ever get to their own Batman and this will be their Clayface? I don't know. But, they're just going to do this body horror story with a Batman villain. So Clayface test screening reactions, runtime, and Aaron Paul's role revealed. He doesn't look excited about it. He looks very worried. Maybe it'll all work out. Following some early reactions from a recent test screening of DC Studios' Clayface, we now have a few more details, including the identity of Aaron Paul's Breaking Bad Westworld mysterious character. Clayface is said to have gone over very well with the audience, and the first DCU horror movie has drawn comparisons to Joker, Vanilla Sky, The Substance. Well, yeah, definitely The Substance. And interestingly, The Incredible Hulk. Well, yeah, I guess he, if he's like in the cartoon, he becomes this big globule hulking thing, The current runtime is 1 hour, 50 minutes. There will be spoilers from this point on. Ah, damn. What do I do? Now, I'll read it anyway. As previously reported, Batman is never shown or even referenced in the movie. Okay. And there are no other DCU cameos. So they should have just said this is an Elseworld story and just said it was, like Joker. Anyway, it's also said that there are no full body transformations as Matt Hagen shifts his limbs when in a rage for out of control attacks. Well, according to Mitch, the movie will not include any post-credit scenes either and feels very standalone. It's funnier than expected, very R-rated, very gory, has nudity too. So, naked Clayface. Okay. The Scooper also reveals that Aaron Paul will play Matt Hagen's father in a meaningless cameo. So they could probably just cut that out, right? I mean, Daniel Rickman adds that the movie is insane and features a sequence involving Matt having to cut his eyelids open with a pair of scissors on a plane going through turbulence. Couldn't he just wait till it calmed down? There's a more detailed synopsis doing the rounds, but we're not too sure if it's legit. But we're not going to quit. Once the world's most beloved actor, Matt Hagen's glamorous life is shattered when a forbidden affair with a Gotham City mob boss's wife leads to his brutal disfigurement. Desperate to reclaim his shattered identity and his prized looks, Matt turns to a mysterious female doctor who administers an experimental underground drug. However, the miracle cure comes with a horrifying price. Triggered by deep sorrow, trauma, and fits of rage, Matt's face begins to melt, slowly transforming him into a monstrous entity. Now a fugitive hunted by Batman, the government, after taking violent revenge on the mobsters who ruined his life, Matt's grip on sanity slips. He forms a twisted, obsessive bond with the doctor who treated him, eliminating anyone who stands in their way, including her husband. Well, yeah, you got to get him out of the way. As she realizes the horrifying consequences of her experiment and attempts to stop him once and for all, Matt survives, setting the stage for a dark, tragic, psychological thriller about vanity, heartbreak, and a deadly obsession. Clayface is the box. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Well, the recent trailer showed a bloody, bandaged Matt Hagen in his hospital bed as we see horrifying flashes of the attack that left him disfigured. We then catch glimpses of the transformation he'll undergo. There's even a shadowy shot of Hagen changing his arm into a spiked mace. And the teaser concludes with the actor lying in a bathtub, wiping his own face away with his hand. Mike Flanagan is somebody who I've been friendly with for a long time, and he wrote me about Clayface, James Gunn told Entertainment Weekly in a recent interview. He texted me about, "It's really early on in my DC journey. Just being honest, I did not think that was something that was going to happen, but he came in and he pitched the idea, and I was like, oh shit, that's cool. It's a body horror movie. It's a horror movie that, like any cool body horror movie, it just happens to be in the DCU. Is it? And then he wrote the script, and the script was fantastic. We did not plan to do Clayface. That was really something he brought to us. Okay. DC Studios' first ever foray into the genre. Clayface is a horror thriller from director James Watkins, starring, the film stars all these people, is produced by these people, and there you go. As a body horror vehicle unto itself, I don't know, it might work. But the problem is, it's got to overcome the Batman movie with no Batman aspect. And the Joker did it, but it's, the Joker. Will this one do it? I don't know. But it doesn't really matter because I don't think the DCU is going to last much longer, because then he would be like, well, you've introduced this Clayface villain, and so when is he going to show up in your Batman movies? I don't know. We didn't really think that far ahead, and whoops, we forgot to sign the actor to a contract for more movies. I don't know. But, the funny thing is, it might be their most successful film of the year, because Supergirl certainly won't be. And plus, it's a horror movie, so other than the effects to make him smear his face off and stuff like that, it's probably pretty damn cheap to make. So it'll make its money back. So there's that. That's something. Yeah. Nodex says, I told you about Craven. Rhino was a normal guy with an oh yeah, that's right. Yes, he had an insulin too. So he was diabetic, and once he took the tube out, he grew and his skin hardened. Oh my God. That's a weird form of diabetes I've never heard of. Joe Lamont Summit, they should do a DC Marvel crossover so that the Twilight dog guy, Lautner, could confront the Sparkle Batman. Yeah. Joe Lamont Summit, is Clayface going to call everyone biatch or biatch? I don't know. Maybe. Nolex says, LOL. Nolex says, so Clayface is just a dehydrated Sandman. Well, I would have thought maybe Sandman's the dehydrated. I don't know. Or you mean a hydrated one, right? Well, yeah. Reverse that. Sandman is a dehydrated Clayface. Yes. Except, he can turn into tools and stuff, but he can't. See, Clayface was able to make himself look like other people. Apparently, he's not doing that in this movie. But he does make a spike mallet out of his hand, but only in shadow. So, he's going to kill the mobsters, so there's that. Anyway, Joe Lamont, the plot described sounds exactly like Nicholson's Joker. Yes. Yeah. A narcissistic man gets disfigured and goes nuts over it. And you can understand him wanting revenge against those guys, all because he banged the guy's girlfriend, come on. But he was like, so you pretty boy here thinks he can poke the whiskers with my goyle? Guess again, pretty boy. She ain't gonna let you in those whiskers when you ain't pretty no more. And then that's pretty much how it goes. And he's disfigured. And then as it happens, he happens to stumble into a mad scientist. And she's like, yeah, take one of these and see what happens. And then lo and behold, he's like, wow, it fixed my face. But now I'm feeling bad. And, oh, no. It's stuck like this. But now I think I'm falling in love with you. Yeah, well, I'm married. Well, not for long, you're not. So I guess that's how that'll go. And then she's got to come up with some antidote to her, drug that gave him Clayface powers. And, probably lure him into the bedroom, try to seduce him, and then she whips out the syringe and poke, and he's like, "What'd you do?" And then, I don't know, he melts, and she flushes him down the toilet. Probably that's how it goes. Anyway, Nodak says, "I hope Mario Bosco is the mob boss in the movie." That would be pretty good. Someone should cast. I mean, come on. It's just waiting for you to cast. Anyway, so this horror movie, yet another reboot. What was the lesson of Backrooms and Obsession? They're new. They're not franchise. They're probably going to become one. I don't know about. Well, someone else could make a wish. I guess the next one would be some girl makes a wish about a guy, and then he becomes obsessed with it. Probably not as funny, though. That girl was doing the crazy eyes and the look, and the guy instantly knew he was in trouble. But he's like, "Oh, fuck. Oh, no." Backrooms, I don't know. How do you make? I mean, I'm sure they're gonna. Oh, you got to do another one, and it's like, well, you're gonna go into the weird, empty offices and wander around, and then see weird, demonic versions of yourself storming around. I don't know. All right, so here we have another Blair Witch. Well, I guess this will be a Blair Witch reboot. Blair Witch had, I think it's only 2 sequels, right? They had the Book of Shadows, which was like a regular movie, and then later on they did this god awful. I mean, Book of Shadows wasn't that great, but it was all right. this last one they did, jeez, it was pretty bad. Blair Witch is one and done. Come on. So anyway, they're going to do it anyway. So the Blair Witch Project first teaser for Lionsgate remake reveals official theatrical release date. So during CinemaCon in 2024. Oh, yeah, they announced it. They didn't have anything filmed yet. But anyway, Lionsgate and Blumhouse officially announced that they were moving forward with The Blair Witch Project movie. We first heard that a reboot might be in development back in but the rumor was never confirmed. We had assumed that the idea may have just fallen by the wayside. Well, it didn't. Now we have a first teaser featuring some creepy imagery and the movie's premiere date, September 24th, 2027. The synopsis reads, "The horror masterminds at Blumhouse Atomic Monster that brought you Obsession." Yeah, Obsession, cool. The Conjuring. Backrooms, oh boy. Reminds us of how scary the woods can be with this groundbreaking new chapter of the Blair Witch Project. Well, it's not groundbreaking. You're going back to an old movie from 1999. The 1999 film ushered in a new era of found footage horror and is still widely considered to be one of the scariest movies of all time. Well, unfortunately, a direct sequel, Book of Shadows, and Adam Weingard's tepid 2016 revival failed to recapture the visceral chills of the original, and the franchise is stalled since. Well, I mean, it. Like I said, it's a one and done thing. How many more ways can you do it? I suppose they could have done a found footage movie of people trying to find the people who are lost, and then they get stuck too. I don't, Anyway, I have been incredibly fortunate to work with Jason many times over the years. We forged a strong relationship on The Purge when I was at Universal, and we launched STX with his film, The Gift. There is no one better at this genre than the team at Blumhouse, said Lionsgate film chair Adam Fogelson. We are thrilled to kick this partnership off with a new vision for Blair Witch that will reintroduce this horror classic for a new generation. So they'll film everything on their phones this time. I don't know. Anyway, Jason Blum gave credit to the original Blair Witch for helping to pave the way for his own found footage hit Paranormal Activity, saying, "I don't think there would have been a Paranormal Activity had there not first been a Blair." No, there wouldn't. There were other films that you can, there's that UFO abduction thing. That's a found footage movie. And then what was it? Cannibal Holocaust, which I've never seen. They say that one's kind of like that. And then at the time the Blair Witch came out, you had the Last Broadcast movie about the Jersey Devil. And that one actually has more of a solid structure than Blair Witch does, to where it's almost like the faux documentary, which is probably your best bet for doing something like this. Except all of a sudden, towards the end, it jumps out of the found footage thing, and then it's a regular movie. That never works. And in fact, the Paranormal Activity, they tried to bring that one back, and that's what they did towards the end of the movie. It's like, yeah, no, that don't work. So Paranormal Activity probably, it had about 3 good films. The 4th one I liked. A lot of people don't, but still. And then there was a spinoff movie. They said, it's just a spinoff movie. I said, no, it ties right into the regular narrative. But then they got confused about the story they had set up and then just sort of lost it along the way. It was weird. Anyway, YouTube horror space filmmaker Dylan Clark is set to direct, with original stars Joshua Leonard and Michael C. Williams on board as executive producers, alongside the first movie's directing team of Eduardo Sanchez, Daniel Myrick, and Greg Hale. So I guess Heather, the woman that was the girl in the movie, she's like, nah, I'm good. Anyway, what do you guys make of this news? What do you think a new Blair Witch movie should focus on? I don't know. I don't think there's anything to do. So here's their teaser. Knows how to, mark the calendar. Oh, okay. So that's it. Somebody else is stuck in the woods, and you might see them with snot coming out of their nose. And, I'm so sorry, I screwed up, and oh God, did I mess up? I don't know. And that's that. Yeah. Well, Heather was a better actress than this girl. And she had this terrible scream in it and stuff. Sure, she's a nice lady and everything, but that was bad. So anyway, there you go. You're getting another Blair Witch. Nobody asked for it, but you're going to get one. So, that's what you get. Things you didn't ask for. Joe Lamont's on, with that blue pill, does that part turn into blue clay? Oh, yeah. I wonder how that works out. That's why he couldn't get the doctor to leave her husband, The sequel to Backrooms could be that every room is holding a different HR meeting where they need to have a talk with you. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, that would be scary. Cloverfield was the movie where I first said to myself, I think I'm done with found footage movies. Yeah, Cloverfield, now that was the one where they said, hey, the found footage thing is how cheap it is to make one of them, And mostly it's just somebody's with a camera and like, what was that? What was that? Oh my God. And then all of a sudden, and then it goes blank and that's it. Credits roll. But with this one, it's like, oh, wow. What if you had Godzilla attack the city and people were filming it? And then you could cobble together a movie out that. Well, they didn't really do that. They had this one guy in there. The story about the guy's girlfriend leaving or something. I forget the whole story. Anyway. And then his idiot buddy is still holding on to the camera because, all right, there's this spectacular thing happening. A giant monster is attacking New York and all that. But after a while, you're not going to keep that camera running. And that's the main thing about found footage. The number one rule. You've got to explain why someone would keep doing that. And Blair Witch, they had it because that's what they were out there to do. So even when the trouble's happening, is still filming it all. And then they even have a scene where that's like Heather's obsession with it and stuff like that. And ultimately at the end, well, the camera has lights, and so they're able to see. And so there's an explanation for it. But just for some average idiot who showed up to a party and was just filming people at the party for posterity and all that, and then they're running from the monsters and the giant monster and all this stuff, that thing is just going to be tossed. It's just not going to work that way. Like Paranormal Activity, they had it pretty solid and set down, whereas they had all the security cameras set up. So they're not constantly filming their day-to-day lives in the house. It's the security cameras that catches everything. So you got to have that sort of thing. You can't just throw it out there and the guy's just going to keep his camera going. When he could die at any second. And he needs to find shelter and a way to get away from the danger. But anyway, Joel Lamont-Sama, there is a found footage CCTV one I saw, which was really creepy. It is about the freaky chick losing a bag of Coke in the White House and losing her mind. That sounds pretty good. Ma'am, we're going to need you to step away from the Oval Office until I get my Coke. All right, I guess I'll end with these Doctor Who stories. If ever there was a sad story, it's this. I mean, there's a lot of that going around. So, yeah, I just, time to bail out. Yeah, probably so. So, this is Doctor Who TV, and they have these suggestions of, hey, what can they do? So, Doctor Who has 5 ways forward, but none of them are easy. Well, yeah, the whole show's been destroyed. So anyway, he says, about whoever takes over has got a big problem and all that. So option 1, reboot the whole show. The bluntest answer is a full reboot. A full reboot means a proper reset. Start again. New First Doctor, new TARDIS, new rules. The works. The show begins from number 1 in a new continuity, free from the existing regeneration chain. No bi-generation, no continuity accounting, no awkward questions about why one doctor became another, then possibly Billy Piper. From a production point of view, this must be tempting. At this point, oh yeah. A clean restart lets the BBC and any new production company sell Doctor Who as a true beginning, rather than another attempt to patch the roof. It gives casual viewers permission to tune in without needing a flowchart, and 60 plus years of homework. It also draws a thick line under the current mess. That is the appeal, but it is also the problem. Doctor Who has survived for more than 6 decades because it can regenerate without fully restarting. That is the genius of the format. The Doctor changes, the tone changes, the companions change, the production team changes. But the thread continues. William Hartnell still leads to Patrick Troughton. Tom Baker still leads to Peter Davison. Christopher Eccleston still leads to David Tennant. The show bends. It does not usually snap. A hard reboot would snap it. Some fans would accept that. Some might even welcome it. At this point, I don't know, but many would hate it because continuity is part of the strange emotional contract of Doctor Who. Even when fans complain about canon, they still want the show to feel connected to itself. A reboot might be the easiest answer on paper. It might also be the answer that makes the program feel less like Doctor Who. If you get a reboot wrong, you risk turning a wounded franchise into a finished one. Well, at this point, it's already finished. Come on. This is pretty bad. So, option number 2, retcon back to Capaldi. Oh, yeah, he's the best one. Bring him. Oh, you mean after his regeneration. The most controversial answer is also the one that would please a significant chunk of alienated fans. Go back to the end of the Capaldi era and treat everything after that as a corrupted timeline, a matrix trap, a toy maker consequence, a splinter universe, or some other piece of Time Lord weirdness. It sounds extreme at this point, not really, but the logic is obvious. If Jodie Whittaker's doctor was divisive, the plot lines around her were just as divisive. The timeless child changed the doctor's origin, damaged huge pieces of the program's mythology, and presided over a major loss of audience confidence. Yes, that's a huge problem. You might have gotten away with Jodie Whittaker, but you're not getting away with that crap. The RTD Gatwa era then failed to repair that damage. Instead, it doubled down on the timeless child and added fresh complications by generation and the continued existence of Tennant's 14th Doctor, which is like, what is that? More tinkering with the Doctor's family histories through Susan and Poppy and the dangling pantheon of Discord plotline. If you wanted to identify the last relatively stable point in modern Doctor Who, the end of the Capaldi era is an obvious place to look. Peter Capaldi's final episode left the show in a recognizable state. The Doctor was still recognizably the Doctor. Regeneration still broadly meant what it always meant. The Time Lords and Gallifrey were battered but still usable pieces of the mythology. The show had problems, but it had not become unmanageable. A retcon from that point would be brutal, but clean. The appeal is clear. It would allow a new team to restore the Doctor as a wandering Time Lord, rebuild the mythology, and win back fans who checked out because they felt the program had stopped respecting its own foundations. It would also trigger a war. With who? There would be accusations of erasure. So, this is that audience that they were trying to garner that was going to show up and replace the crappy old fans, right? That didn't work out, did it? There would be arguments about Jodie Whittaker and Ncuti Gatwa representation canon, culture war politics, and whether the BBC was pandering to angry fans. The 12 people who loved those eras would be furious. Hey, it's Gatwa's joke, not mine. Yeah, but it's pretty accurate. So you see the problem. If you're going to say there's problems with this move, there really isn't. The bigger problem is that a retcon starts the next era by looking backwards. Not necessarily. You just forget the crap. It makes the first job of the new Doctor Who correction rather than adventure. That may satisfy some fans, but it's a grim foundation for a relaunch. You do it in one episode and you move on. You know? That's all you got to do. I mean, at least Jodie Whittaker was the regeneration from Capaldi. Ncuti Gatwa, they do this weird, the bi-generation thing where he's just a clone of the Doctor. He's not even really the Doctor. David Tennant's still the Doctor. What the hell? It's just like you couldn't mess it up enough. You had to keep, well, let me screw with this too. Option 3, the most likely. Yes, this is probably the most likely. Option is the least dramatic one. Just move on. Start the next series with a new Doctor, a new companion, and a new status quo. Do not explain the Billy Piper cliffhanger. Do not hint that it matters. Do not spend the first episode trying to untangle loose ends from a previous production era. And this could have been an option for Russell T Davies when he came back. Instead of what he, I'm not going to get rid of the timeless child. All right, just ignore it. Just do basic Doctor Who adventures. That might have worked. Instead, well, he did what he did. There is a strong case for this. Casual viewers will not care as much as fans think they will, especially if there is a long gap between the show, before the show returns. Most people will want to know whether the new Doctor works, whether the companion is likable, and whether the story is any good. They will not be demanding a forensic explanation of a cliffhanger from years earlier. In practical terms, this is the simplest route. It frees the new team from opening their era by servicing someone else's ending. It's also the laziest route. Yeah, but what are you going to do? This would be continuity management by abandonment. It would take the Billy Piper ending, place it quietly in a drawer, and hope nobody asks too many questions. That might work for a while, but Doctor Who has been doing this too often. The show keeps including huge ideas, then wandering away from them. Yeah, it's a problem. They got worse and worse and worse. It was one thing when they just forget about that Paul McGann being half human stuff, and that was easy to do. But after a while, you're like, no, you can't just let this stuff pile up, because eventually you notice you put it on, you sweep it under the rug, and now your head is hitting the ceiling because the rug is so full of crap. Each one might be survivable on its own. Together, they create the feeling that modern Doctor Who is careless with consequence. Ignoring the Billy cliffhanger may be sensible. It may even be necessary, but it would also confirm a bad habit. What are you going to do? You don't have a lot of options. You're giving it 4 or 5, I think. But come on. The show cannot keep asking fans to invest in big moments, then act as if it's unreasonable when they expect those moments to mean something. I think the number against what has happened outweighs anybody else who would be upset about them openly addressing it as something they have to retcon away. So just ignoring it. I think the time for that is the most likely what they'll do, but I think the time for that to have worked has passed. This is just Davies just went back in and stirred up the toilet bowl again. I mean, the worst thing you could do following Timeless Child is what he did. There is a more ambitious version of the fix. Turn the chaos itself into the plot. For option 4, the next era could open with the Doctor's timeline broken. Faces are bleeding into each other. Memories do not line up. The Billy cliffhanger, the Timeless Child, Flux, bi-generation, etc. are no longer separate problems. They are symptoms of one larger rupture. The first series could become a story about putting the Doctor back together. This has some appeal. It would avoid pretending the mess does not exist. It would give the new team a way to acknowledge recent continuity while clearing the decks. Done well, it could make years of confusion feel intentional, or at least useful. Doctor Who is flexible enough to absorb almost any explanation involving time, memory, myth, and reality breaking under pressure. This option is dangerous because it gives continuity the steering wheel. The first job of a new era should be to make people excited about watching Doctor Who again. If episode 1 is built around explaining messy past plot lines and why the previous era did not resolve itself, then the show has already narrowed its audience. Oh boy, did it. Continuity repair is catnip for fans and poison for everyone else. Depends on what plot you craft to reach this goal. And I think you're going to have to do it in one episode. This option could work as a background arc. Well, maybe. I don't know. It could not work as the front door. This is where you are, though. The next era needs mystery, energy, and momentum before it needs lore surgery, but it's going to get lore surgery if you go with this. It's ignore it or deal with it. You really only have 2 options. Option 5. The better version of moving on is a soft reboot with a time jump. Do not fully reboot. Do not retcon everything. Do not spend the opening episode explaining the Billy cliffhanger. Do not pretend the mess never happened either. Instead, jump forward. The show returns. Well, this is kind of the same thing as ignoring it, though. So you really only have 4 options. The show returns with a new Doctor already traveling. A new companion meets them in a strong, simple, accessible first episode. The tone is confident. Stakes are clear. The Doctor is recognizably the Doctor again. Strange, funny, dangerous, alien, and wounded, but no longer buried under a pile of mythology. This might sound familiar because RTD did something similar with Rose in 2005. The difference between this and simply ignoring the problem is responsibility. The Billy cliffhanger is not erased. It becomes part of the Doctor's most recent past. Something happened. Something the Doctor does not want to talk about. That gives the new era distance without denial. The first episode can be about monsters, danger, wonder, and character, while small references across the series can suggest that the previous regeneration was unstable, that the Doctor's timeline suffered damage, or that the last phase was part of a crisis that is now past. That approach gives the show two things at once: a clean entry point for casual viewers and a signal to fans that the previous ending has not simply been forgotten. It also lets the new production team define Doctor Who on its own terms. The first episode should not be about why the last era failed. It should be about why the next one might work. Adventure first, explanation second, character first, canon later. Well, that's kind of an option of the fourth one as well. That if you give some hints here and there and resolve it later or something, I don't know. I think they're going to ignore it. A full reboot is too severe. Yeah, I think that would be a problem. A Capaldi era retcon is probably too explosive. No, I don't agree with that, because I don't buy that you have a huge audience that wants to keep this stuff relevant to it. You know, pretending nothing happened is easy, but makes the show look careless. Making the mess the story is clever, but too inward looking for a relaunch. So just stretch it out over episodes. Anyway, the best answer, in my opinion, is a soft reboot with a time jump. Start fresh, acknowledge just enough, explain later if explanation is needed. It's going to dog them. Or, I mean, unless they wait 20 years from now. I mean, they're looking at maybe 5 years before they do a new show, I'm thinking. You know, some people think they could get back on track by 2028. I think that's a bit optimistic. But give viewers a strong new Doctor, a strong new companion, and a first episode that makes them want to follow. The next team, if there is one, should not erase Doctor Who. They should open the TARDIS doors and make it feel alive again. Yeah, well, I think they're just going to ignore it and do that. But a full, a Capaldi era retcon would be great. But they probably won't do it. I seriously doubt that they would. But that would be the most interesting and might get the curiosity elements up, just to say, yeah, we're just going to ignore it. We're not even going to take questions about that. I mean, I just don't think that would go over well. And as far as, oh boy, it would be too explosive to just ignore those eras and all that, or to retcon them out. No, it wouldn't. Those shows just don't have the audience to make that matter. They don't. Maybe it's more than 12, but not enough to matter. Otherwise, why did it fail? Anyway, that's it for that one. Wait. The Ravenous says, Douglas. Hey, that's me. And says, chat. And says, I seen a headline, the Doctor is back. It is. Taylor Swift as new Doctor with the quarterback as her companion. There you go. They can't afford her. Technically, he's a tight end, not a quarterback. Well, the BBC doesn't know that. All right. There's that one. And then there's this business of Grant Morrison. If given the chance, he knows how to fix Doctor Who. So, oh yeah, there's this other thing. I guess I'll delve into that in a bit. But I stayed up this long. Maybe we can make it to 3 hours. Good Lord. I can't believe I'm not feeling the pain. All right, let's see what Grant Morrison says. So Grant Morrison, oh wait, I didn't put it up there. Can't just read it to myself. That would be rude. Grant Morrison reveals why Doctor Who full reboot would be a mistake. Well, yes. Probably the same conclusion made with the other article. So Grant Morrison has insisted a full reboot of Doctor Who would be a mistake. Oh, wow. The headline was right. The comic book and screenwriter has worked on the likes of Batman, New X-Men, and Doctor Who, New X-Men, you mean, Doctor Who magazine, has offered their thought. Oh, that's right. He does the they them thing, you know, and how the beloved BBC show can put its bet foot forward. You mean taking a gamble? When it eventually returns after being put out to competitive tender. Writing on Substack, Grant said, I expect they'll opt for the Young Doctor full reboot, which would be a mistake. You have a universe, you have lore in the bank. That's good to have as long as you don't rely on it. In fact, barely even mention it. It's so easy to do a young Doctor Who, showing up in a field where he's found by some kids who think he's Jesus, amnesiac, TARDIS stolen, whodunit, etc. Kids who get into the show will be excited to discover there's a huge backstory to get into. But who am I to say? Grant noted they also have thought about approaching the BBC again, but getting involved in Doctor Who, but admitted they've never taken me seriously before, so I'm not convinced they'll start. However, they added, it's probably worth a try. Grant also offered some thoughts on how best to solve the dangling threads from the last episode, which appeared to show Ncuti Gatwa's doctor regenerated into Billy Piper. It didn't just appear, it did. The writer suggested they could just reveal that Gatwa's doctor was an unstable bi-generation who tried to make the most of his brief mayfly existence, but just sort of flickered along, barely there. When he glitched out, he reached for a familiar face and got Billy Piper off the telly. She then tracks down David Tennant's doctor going mad with his earthbound ordinary life round at Donna's. He can't stop attracting terrifying, vengeful enemies from space, so he's on the run when they meet and fuse back together with a lovely Rose in the doctor scene to wrap the whole RTD era in a neat bow, while the doctor's understanding family cheer them on. Then it all goes wrong, and new Who picks up from there with nary a backward glance. You don't even need to show any of that, but it's all there for a big finish. Grant argued that the best option is to open cold as if the show is new, which is probably what they'll do. They said, strange and eccentric young inventor amnesiac with an odd TARDIS machine that can go anywhere and is bigger on the inside. That's all you need to get started. Where do all the Time Lords come from? Well, it's all about the time birds and the time bees. Giggle, tee-hee, giggle, giggle. I think the other article is much the same thing. All right. So there you go. That's Grant Morrison's ideas about what to do about Doctor Who. I mean, yeah, I think they're just going to ignore it. And, he makes the same points as the previous article did. And that's all you can do. But I'd heard that before. People were theorizing that maybe that would be what the Christmas special was supposed to be that Davies was doing. So you reunite Tennant and Billy Piper, and there's something wrong, and the toy maker did something, and they've got to fix it. So the bi-generation thing can't continue. And so Tennant and Rose make out, which is essentially the doctor making out with himself. And they form one single being. And there is your new doctor, or whatever actor they hire to be the character. And there you go. Now, they were running out of time, so I don't know if they could have settled that, but they could have just had this glowing figure, and then the doctor stands up, but you don't see who it is, and it fades to black. I don't know. What a mess. Deep fake Cushing, who was a doctor. They did it in Rue 1. Yeah, they could do Cushing. No, I just say the past garbage seasons was actually a terrible spinoff and call those seasons Doctor Who. Yeah, they could do that. Joe Lamont, he was a tight end, but I heard that Taylor Swift likes using those big toys on him. Oh, so not as tight anymore. She took care of that. So, that's what they're into. So, best of luck with that. Meanwhile, people think, oh, there's no Doctor Who at all. Oh, but there is. In fact, there's this whole new saga that's unfolding. Yeah, that's right. Get ready. BBC doubles down on woke Doctor Who. Circuit Breaker launches with Joe Martin's Fugitive Doctor. So here she is. Get ready. Even as the show's television future hangs in the balance and the series was recently canceled on DP due to poor ratings, the BBC is launching a sprawling new multi-platform Doctor Who story event with Circuit Breaker. Doctor Who Circuit Breaker launches today, June 25th, and runs through September across comics, audio, books, gaming, and digital, all centered on Joe Martin's Fugitive Doctor. So you got to buy all this crap to get the full story. If you don't, well, you're not going to know how it ends. The event was revealed last year, so they didn't know there would be no more Doctor Who. They should have known. And has been in the works long before the BBC's recent announcement that it's canceling the Christmas special and putting the show out to Tinder. So the timing seems coincidental. So there's your poster. Boy, it really looks exciting. The details include that Circuit Breaker is a single escalating story told in chapters across multiple formats, with each installment from a different Doctor Who partner. It's the third event of its kind following Time Lord Victorious and Doomsday. The story kicks off on the In-Universe Unit website with Calling the Doctor, written by activists, of course, an activist, Esme Zakimi Pearson, before rolling out across Titan Comics, Doctor Who Magazine, BBC Audiobooks, East Side Games, Puffin, BBC Books, and Big Finish through late September. So the plot centers on Unit's most secure facility, the Black Archive, where familiar objects have been pulled through time and space, carrying a dangerous energy signature that threatens to tear reality apart. Newly appointed head of the Black Archive, Osgood, played by Ingrid Oliver, and her assistant, Andrew Amari Douglas, turn to the one person who can help, the Doctor. In this case, Joe Martin's Fugitive Doctor, who doesn't know anything about Unit. So they're going to have to introduce that and all that. Across the event, the Fugitive Doctor faces classic enemies, including the Daleks, Cybermen, Sontarans, and a rogue weeping angel. Not just any weeping angel, a rogue one. While an insidious presence lurks in the background. Other than those, right? Anyway, per the synopsis, trust between Unit and the Doctor begins to erode. Yeah, but they don't know who she is. As those who idolize her start to, why would they idolize her? I mean, anyway, to question whether she's really the Time Lord they thought they knew. Joe Martin, well, that would be an interesting thing you discover. Holy crap, she is it. Joe Martin's Fugitive Doctor first appeared in Diddy Diddy. Remember that year? Yeah. As a previously unknown incarnation of the Time Lord, and has become one of the more intriguing additions to Doctor Who lore. Not really. No. Martin said the event showcases a more vulnerable side of her Doctor and teased a brand new costume for the character. Huh? Looks like it's the same. Well, I guess there's like more pink to the shirt and there's the hat. That's different. So, yeah, I guess it is a new costume. Anyway, Circuit Breaker now has an official start date. I'm delighted for fans to join the Fugitive Doctor on a brand new adventure, she said. One that may even showcase a more vulnerable side. Yes, she does have one. But for now, I invite you to take a first look at my Doctor's brand new costume. Well, that's what they give you, huh, Joe? Yeah. some video games, a comic book, and an audio play, I guess. Anyway, Esme Yakimi Pearson, writer, said, Circuit Breaker is truly unique in the Doctor Who universe. Just as the fugitive Doctor rocked everyone's world when they first appeared on our screens, we wanted to bring something exciting and new to the fans, a story that takes the best parts of Doctor Who and melds them with a fresh and innovative boldness that makes for fantastic storytelling. Well, someone already beat you to it, so it really doesn't do any of that. Joe Martin added, Circuit Breaker now has an official start date. I'm delighted for it. You already did that. Jeez. So these people think it's going to be great. They think it's great too. It's all cool and wonderful. Here's another little poster. Yeah, that's so. Oh boy, here's the schedule. So make sure you get a copy of this because you're gonna want to catch up on all of this so you'll know the whole story. Don't blink. The unit website. Okay, so I guess it's something at the unit website. We'll have a story. That's when the Weeping Angel show. Anyway, with no new series in production, the only Doctor Who fans are getting now is Ancillary. A CB's animated series, good Lord. The back catalog newly streaming on AMC Plus in the U.S. And now a summer transmedia event built around a past incarnation of the Doctor rather than the show's future. See, that's the really terrible stumbling block about the Joe Martin Doctor. You only did it for virtue signaling, tokenizing stuff. That's why they did that. No doubt about it. Now, I always thought it would be interesting if you had introduced a future Doctor before the current Doctor left and regenerated, if they could finagle that with a new actor. And that was the only way to salvage what they did with that stupid crap. Instead, it led into the Timeless Child and all that. And it's just absurd. So now there's thousands upon thousands of Doctors and all that. And just always somehow ended up in that police box. No, William Hartnell wasn't the first one to do that. What? You're stupid. So look, Joe Martin gets, like I said, it's a website thing, some comic books, and an audio series. 2 episodes, apparently. Anyway, the television series is potentially off air until 2028 as the BBC searches for a producer through its tender process. Even as former showrunners Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat insist the show isn't canceled. They're the former showrunners, so what do they know? In the meantime, the Hooniverse keeps expanding everywhere except the place it started. You call that an expansion? Well, there you go. Are you excited for Circuit Breaker? Yeah, won't that be cool? Yeah. There you go. Boy, they're really energized about keeping Doctor Who going. That's something. Ain't that something? Well, yeah, it is, something. Is it going to actually achieve anything? No. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Well, you're supposed to go and read it and all that, but yeah, I don't think so. All right. Oh, what am I doing? I got to switch over to this one. And you gotta do there it is. No, why did it do that? Oh man, what the hell? All right. Man, they can't let me show the camera. Well, I don't know what the hell this is about. I mean, do I move it up above the other one, maybe? There it is. Jeez. Because I was like, well, I can't draw any pictures now. Or at least I can, but you can't see it. Yeah. Well, that's no good. All right. So William Shatner, I will draw that. Okay. So let's see here. This from the, oops, better hold this down. From the movie Impulse. And he goes on his schemes, swindling lonely ladies who just were looking for a man. And Shatner shows up, says, I'm pretty suave and cool and stuff. I'm in serious investing and what I represent an investment firm. And this is a small amount of money. I could really make some for you. I'm just going to need a couple of $1,000s to get started. That's all. In the meantime, I could have sex. And that seemed to work out for a while. Except he didn't count on the stupid kid. But, I mean, she was there. So, and it's one of those things. If you're going to murder somebody at the car wash, you got to, check the back seat, make sure there's no kid hiding in there who's going to see the whole thing. So you're like, damn it. Yeah, I guess he couldn't just buy her off, get her some ice cream or something or something like that. And so that she would, just leave him alone so that he can get back to his killing. But, oh, well, didn't work out that way. And he lost his cool. And next thing you know, he ended up with a sword in his gut. Yeah. Ironically, because it's the sort of thing that troubled him his entire life when he murdered this asshole who was beating up his mother. And way back when. And of course, ultimately, he had to deal with the fact that his mother was a hooah, And so there's probably some of that too, I'm sure. He's like, but Mom, what were you doing with this man? He said, oh, now I know. Oh my God. I wanted to always believe my mother was a saint. This is almost as traumatic as when I found out Santa Claus wasn't real. What are we doing to each other in this world? So, yeah, it just didn't work out. He does have some pretty crappy outfits in this movie as well. But it was the era, everybody had crappy outfits then. So back then, no one really noticed somehow. So there he's got this watch that he probably stole. And Now, it could have been interesting instead that, the good Matt Stone showed up and, was going to treat the woman nice and everything. And then bad Matt Stone. Hi, Matt Stone. And all that. And there's no transporter, so they couldn't really merge them into one person like they did in the show, I want to live. Well, you can't. So this little girl is going to run a sword through your guts here, and we're just going to be done with you. And, that was it. There's a sword in my gut. And that's how Matt Stone ended. He was always troubled about swords after he gutted that man. And he took out his frustrations on, lonely widows, divorcees, and stuff like that. He mostly wanted the money, so it was never really anything personal, you understand. But, well, that's how that worked out. It's got some sort of crappy designs. Hell, I'll let Photoshop handle that at some point. There we go. There we are. All right. I'm Captain K. And I want to live. I want to live. I know. You want to live. And he's like, Hillman Rand, I apologize for my other self trying to, rape you in your cabin. But we just won't ever speak of it again. And then she got transferred off the ship, I guess it was for the best. I mean, how do you come back from something like that? He said, well, it wasn't really me. It was, yeah, but part of you wanted to. Well, yeah, I think we'd better put in for that transfer. All right. And then a little bit of this. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right. Well, you get the idea, I think. I can't deal with the stress. I really can't. I have to bite my pinky. Yeah. Hooniverse makes me want them to just halt any production of the show. Yeah. Yeah. Sean Carter, how does that pinky taste? It's all right. Well, I guess so. I mean, how else is he supposed to deal with the stress? I guess it set pinkies to yum. Ugh. Alexandria, I love sitting back and laughing. Sean Connor, Captain Kirk, please report to Starfleet HR. Yeah. So what's he going to do? Oh, no. I didn't mean it. I didn't. She was leading me on. You have to understand. That's what she does. My God, look how she dresses. They all dress like that. It's standard issue. My God, man, who was thinking that? I thought that was you, wasn't it? You put in the no. Yeah, those were the days, the good old days of Kirk, where all female officers are required to wear to wear mini skirts. Yeah. Look, come on, it worked out. It's fine. I mean, back in Pike's era, they were all in black pants, just like the men, and Kirk came on board. There's going to be some changes around here. I'm not going to put up with that. And there you go. Hey, I mean, look, I hear they got 5 years out of that. So, we didn't get to see it. I mean, I guess in the cartoon you did. So there you go. Then they had him in gray pajamas for a while, and then, back in black pants and red coats and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, Sean Carter, after all that, he never noticed Yeoman Rand's legs. Well, she wasn't around much longer. Yeah. I mean, it was awkward. Something like that happens. It's this weird sci-fi world. You say, well, it wasn't really me. It just my animal compulsion and urges. I couldn't resist when I was split in two. Yeah. I mean, the other one was nicer, but he was never going to be able to do anything. So Yeoman Rand, what was she going to do? I like the nicer Kirk. And then after a while, she's like, is that all you're going to do? And I'm so sorry, Yeoman Rand. I don't know what's wrong with it. Oh my God. Then it becomes, an advertisement about low T and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, there you go. Evil Kirk, perhaps channeled for Impulse. Matt Stone. Swindling old ladies and then murdering them. Well, he was robbing them and he wanted them to shut up about it. So that's how that cookie crumbles. Well, all right, then. I guess that'll do it. I'll take off. We did get... Oh, boy, that's too bright. Good Lord. There, that's better. That's better. Maybe she should have gone with Charlie X. Yeah, but he didn't know what he was doing. Sean Connor says, Kirk said, well, Janice, you have space herpes now, so. You might want to talk to Bones about that. Yeah. Damn, Jimmy boy. I recognize that DNA sequence. So, yeah, that's the tough times there for sex. in space aboard the Enterprise. Yeah, she seemed to like him anyway, you know. I mean, in motion picture, she was upset because the transporter mutilated those crewmen in motion picture. And, Kirk's just, it's all right, Janice. It wasn't your fault. I mean, it's true, she was upset at the horror of it. She's like, yeah, I know it's not my fault. I didn't do it. I don't know. This transporter had sat dormant for a while when they were refurbishing the old ship, and someone said, we can use this, right? And you're sure. And then they're just like, and then they turn into, ground beef back at the space station. What a mess. They probably just beamed the rest of it out into space because it's like, ooh, you're going to call the janitor in for that? Ew. It's like, well. And then they're like, oh, there's this screw loose. And they just tighten it up. And, okay, it works now. So then when they beam Bones over, it's fine. I feel stupid. Well, we got to go save the planet from a cloud. So we'll talk about this later. Can you get over this rash, Bones? I'm a doctor, not a miracle worker. I could do better for you if you eat right and exercise regularly and not nail space hose. Come on, Bones, help me out here. Yeah. But, with the transporter, it seems like you could fix all of that down to the molecular level, DNA and stuff, and go in there. So if Bones can't fix it, he could probably go to Scotty. Could you just go in there and remove the molecular DNA and all that crap of the herpes? Yeah. Hey, Captain, I have done it myself. Yeah. And then there you go. And he says, good. Thank God. That's better. It's all kinds of things you could do with that stuff. They didn't really use it to its full potential. But then again, do you really want to mess with it? Because again, to split into two Kirks, and then you got motion picture turned into ground beef. I mean, really, Kirk got off easy with that one, yeah. All right, there we go. That'll conclude the show. I'm tired, but I still got stuff I got to go do. I got to go do it. And then what else am I going to do? Oh, yeah, then I got to be unconscious for a while. And then I got to go to work. But at least I have an excuse for not seeing the Supergirl movie. I do have that. But if I can, probably my best shot at seeing it would be next Tuesday. I think I can free that up. Jeez, every time I turn around, there's another appointment. There's some other crap I got to go to and all that. I'm like, what the hell? Can't I just sit and veg for a while? Anyway, it's for the rec overview review thing. I'll put that out separately. So there'll be that. And yeah, that'll do it. All right. Thanks for watching. And hopefully we'll visit again sometime soon. Yeah. Yeah.
Hollywood good to Billy Witch, they would. There's no debating. All that's left is the Nailsin reign. The first feast on the corpse of the beast. Only after the feel of the vulture.